take one step closer and I forget my best intentions. You draw me closer, gravity slips away from me. Lines you weave over all my days, humming over my head. I'll drink the pleasure of pain. I feel you sink in your teeth. Your venom runs through my veins. Heartache is screaming my name. Drunk on the pleasure. Your love is perfect. Your love is perfect torture. Your love is perfect. Your love is perfect torture. Fall into obsession, the ecstasy taking hold of me. Blood, red nails, cold memories down my spine of a darker side. Lines, the lines you weave over all my days, humming over my head. I'll drink the pleasure of pain. I feel it sink in your teeth. Your venom runs through my veins. Heartache is screaming my name. I drown in pleasure. Your love is perfect. Your love is perfect torture. Your love is perfect. Your love is torture. I can get enough, I can get you all. Never get enough, I can live it all. I can get enough pleasure in the pain. I wanna feel it all, and you scream my name. Your love is perfect. Your love is perfect torture. Your love is perfect. Your love is perfect torture. Your love is like you know. Your love is like you do. Never get rid of your revolution. Your love is like you know. Your love is like you know. Never get rid of your revolution. Your love is perfect torture. Good afternoon. How you guys all doing? Hope you're all right today. And my name's Aru, Malfunction, the artist, which kind of came about by being a radio DJ. Excuse me, back in late 2018, when somebody said, "Hey, you should have a radio name, like a DJ name." So that's why you got the old Malfunction there. So wherever you are, I hope you're well and your day is going well, or your evening, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. Today, I'm just going to be working on a piece similar to this. because they're all handmade, so that's only one-off pieces. So I'm going to be looking at doing a whole set of these, probably about maybe 6 to 12, so which means I need another, you know, another 5 or 11. So we'll do a bit of that, and these are all hollow pieces, so they're not like solid, so you got to build it up, slowly. I use coils. As a ceramic artist, I don't have a wheel. I don't use a wheel. Early on, when I went to art school, to to learn all these skills, and other stuff like glass blowing, jewelry, and all sort of other sculptures, bronze and everything else. um, I had an accident early on, like around about 3 months into the course, into a 3-year course, right? So I had to learn how to make things without having to feel anything on the tips of fingers. So this is the best way I could figure it out, was like, okay, there's two options you got. You either build from, from the wheel, which spins around and it keeps hitting your fingers, the fingertips, and causes you pain, or use the palm and use the other hand to form these coils, and then you sort of like go around and you form little circular things, and then you layer them on top of each other, and you end up with something like this, which is what I'm going to work on today. I do larger figures, and that's going to probably take me across the entire month or two to do one of those, because I'm quite busy working on comic books, writing comic books, and putting together comic books, right, for publishing and for printing. So these ones I'm trying to. The other week, basically, we had an exhibition with one of my works, and which was part of a fundraiser. And if you've been following this channel, you would have seen me, spend a couple of months just doing that thing. And hey, Nathaniel, how you doing, mate? And so, no, I didn't get the Skype QR code. So if you can just send that, I'll try to figure out how to make it work. Thank you. So, so I ended up like having that piece, and I got afterwards after the exhibition, because there's about 100 pieces there, which means like there's 100 people. Some of them did 2 pieces because or more, right? Because it was kind of a set. It's like their contribution to this community-run center, right? It's not like it's all throughout the year. It's all funded. It's always been like where the community runs this event. Uh, nice, excellent, thank you. Yeah, and like this was like wanting to have you come chat, because like you're into comics as well as collecting sneakers, vinyls, and stuff. I like talking to collectors. I think you know like-minded people have this this conscious synergy amongst people. Like this thing. If you're into collecting, then you have similar things. Like yesterday, I picked up this, right, for a couple of less than $1 or something, and then I thought, oh, you know what? There is snowboards. So you know what? I'll get I'll put them together, and there'll be like a diorama, you know, Batman, snowboarding. So as I'm talking, this is getting a bit dry, so I'm going to have to like because the other thing you don't want to have is like these things getting too dry. See how it's got those little cracks happening, whereas this is not. This is perfect, right? But you don't. It's kind of like in between that is what you want. So I do, I have my little my water spray. And the other thing I got to, when you have something circular like this, they're going to roll off your, whatever you're going to exhibit and stuff. Yeah, snowboarding Batman. So it's going to fall off like that, it's going to roll off. And so I've got to make something similar to this. This is for the bigger pieces, which is the rugby ball shaped pieces that I have. But I need to make something smaller like that. And last night, while I was laying in bed, or this morning, I should say, around about 4 o'clock or something like that, I was laying in bed. I was thinking, what would be a cool thing to do with one of these for, to create one of these. And like these ones have 4, right? So that's my logo. It's like the M. That's my art logo, the signature, whatever. And so with this, I thought, you know what? I'll do 3 legs. Rather than having 4, I'll do 3 because it's smaller, and it can be balanced on like a 3-leg thing like this, like so you have something like that. kind of forming, but not, with the little, with the little things poking up. Excuse me, I don't know. Keep getting frog in my throat or something like that. Might be the milk from the coffee I had earlier, but sound like a smoker, right? Well, that's what happens when you've been smoking for over 20 years and then you quit. I noticed, well, like one of the things I did notice was like my the voice changed, right? It went from like this, this really clear voice like in the 2000s, and then something like over the last few years it just started getting croakier, and I didn't realize it had gone that bad until I quit smoking and I could hear myself and I going, well, it's not, this is kind of, and that's not the reason I quit smoking. The reason I quit smoking was because it's just a waste of money, to be honest. Like, I just felt like, it was just a waste of money. I tried going with vapes and stuff, talking about smoking, right? All of a sudden. I tried vapes and stuff, and just was just like, swapping one thing for another. And the other thing was that with vapes, you actually end up smoking more tobacco, like, nicotine and stuff, because it tastes better, right? And so you don't have this foul taste in your mouth, which you're hooked to because, you're addicted to it. But then you've got vanilla, you got raspberry, you got strawberry, you got chocolate, and all this like things, and which is why younger kids are using vape. It's the saddest thing to see is like a young child, 12-year-old, and by the way, I was around about 12 or 11 when I was smoking, right? Just trying to be cool, and then of course that disappeared really fast when I came back to New Zealand, right? Because I was in Fiji at that time, and so you know uh, and um, and so with that, with vapes, it's just like I just felt like it. My parents were saying, my dad was saying, "Hey, look, this is back in 2014. He's like, use vapes." I was like, "Okay," so I did, and then I realized I just, it just felt like it was a burning sensation in my gut, and and it felt like sorry, in my chest, and it just didn't feel comfortable, and so went back to cigarettes, and then so I kept smoking for another decade or so, right? Oh no, sorry, maybe about 8 years or so, from 8, yeah, around about 8 years or so from 2014 onwards, and this is like every day kind of thing, and so um, after that, I think it was like Christmas 2020, maybe 2022, something like that, 2021, somewhere around that. I get all my years messed up because the older I get, the more I forget, you know, what how things, well, dates and times and stuff like that. Anyway, so this is like the base form of what I'm creating here, right? Because this is, when you look at that, I can actually make it smaller or I can make it bigger. So I'm just going to go with the flow, and if I find that like if it's that this sort of size here is what it's going to end up at. So if you look at that, you can see the sizing there, and so compared to this, right, so it's a slightly bigger. And the other thing is, like, the bigger the piece, and usually, it's a gallery that sets the prices for art, right? You can go in there and go, hey, this is how long it took me to do it, this is what I'm expecting for it, and then the gallery, puts their price up on it because they got to do all the promotions, advertisings, all that stuff, right? Um, and so I've been wanting to do this. Like, I've been on and off, whenever I'm on here, sometimes I mention art and stuff. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and like, I planned in I think it was 2019 when I started doing this as the last 5 pieces or something, 4 pieces I did as for the like the fundraiser, as a donated pieces. Every time I kept telling myself, like, okay, I gotta in 5 years I'll do an exhibition, right? I'll get together and I'll put together these ones and the 12 large ones, and we'll 24 pieces and do it as exhibition of raku and glazed and high fired items, sculptures. But I've been busy with everything else. I've been busy with, like, putting together conventions, working on comic books and stuff. And I realized that, like, with all that stuff, it takes time and it takes a lot of time from me as well. So one thing that really kind of, you know, it just kind of got away from me. And then like last week, as I was mentioning, or the other 2 weeks ago, right, with the yeah, I think it was the 12th, so it's the 25th today in New Zealand, so it's 24th over in the Northern Hemisphere. And so I was outside, I was like just talking to one of the on-site studio artists, right, the one who works in ceramics. I said, look, man, I've been trying so hard to get this done. He said, well, you know, and we started talking about it. He said, these are all the options available. This is who you can talk to about this, and you can talk to about that, and so on. I said, okay, cool. And I said, yeah, I think I need to get back into doing this. I need to get back into just making it a weekly event where I work on these things, you know, on the sculptures, so that I do, you know, I can have my pieces done by the end of next year, because I wanted to do for 2025. I like to hit targets, and you know, from you know, kind of like, you know, hit things, and you are like I know it's in my head what I want to say, but I just can't bring it out, right? You know, those like little you know, through your life, you want to hit those little time pieces where you want to say, I want to, by this time I want to do this, by this time I want to do that and that. So, you know, we did like 5 conventions, 5 years in a row of conventions. Did that, done, right? Achieved that. Went to film school. I wanted to make a feature film. Did that, done, right? Now I'm working on my comics. Released the first superhero comic last year for all ages. You know, Incredible, who's over here, right? There, the redhead, and got that done. Took, you know, kind of took, started in 2007, but like, you know, kind of like last year, think of it like how long that's been, you know, 14, you know, around 14 years to get that comic off the ground and in print and out there. And, you know, it's sometimes some things take longer than you plan, because, you know, it could be financial, it could be like in my case, it was just I had a head injury, and that was it. I just didn't remember anything to do with that creative side of my life. And so I went and started running a comic shop instead, having forgotten that I had all this work that I wanted to get done as a comic creator. So now it's like, okay, for the next few years, what I'll be doing is, you know, that all I care about is working on the comic books and working and getting this exhibition, you know, these things ready for an exhibition. This is a wood-fired one, so basically, this is ready to sell right at this stage. It's a natural sort of piece, which means, you know, it goes like, you know, once it's dry, it goes into kiln, and all it's done is the wood, you know, the fuel is the wood, right? Like all types of wood. And so what happens is the oil comes off that wood, and it colors the glazes it itself. But these are art pieces, so they're not meant to be, you know, you know, kids looking at it or something, because it's not healthy. But then there's also you know, pieces like raku, which I've always loved, because I've been a color person when it comes to like art. It's always been about color for me. And so I want to show you, talking about color, I want to show you this piece that you know, I put up as part of, where are we? As part of, you know, the placeholder for this link, sorry, this stream, right? So there's a couple of pieces I've done over the years, and most of them have been given away as gifts. Let me see, that's not it. And I thought I put it up on Facebook, but it wasn't. So let me get rid of that video, because we're going to look at other videos as well today. And the trauma turned 50 years old. A friend of mine, right, is a huge trauma. Actually, let me just put that on while I'm going to go look for the I've realized it's on the folder tab is on the other friggin screen, and I'm trying to reach it and I can't reach it. So here's this really cool little video from Trauma celebrating 50 years. And let me just
Gimme trauma. It's time for more. Uncle Lloyd is back and there's tons of fun in store. Gimme trauma. It's indie films galore. So grab them up to the Toxitrot at Trauma on 24. Nothing beats a troll masterpiece in July. Watch a Toxic Avenger and return to Newcomb High. Catch the premiere of Curse of the Were-Deer. Then terror firmers, we play and poultry guys. We're going to the Molly Drive-In tonight. Come hang out with the Trauma team. Wish Toxic a happy birthday. Say hi to Sarah and celebrate 50 years of Trauma. Let's go! Gimme Trauma. It's time for more. Uncle Lloyd is back and there's tons of fun in store. Gimme trauma. It's indie films galore. So grab them up to the Toxitrot and Trauma on 24. Trauma on 24. It's Trauma on 24.
When I was like back in back in the mid 80s or late 80s, he's a huge fan of the movie Toxic Avenger, right? And so Toxic, they were going to make they made a remake of Toxic Avenger. However, recently, I think it was last week or something, they came up and they said that like it wasn't releasable. Like something happened, like it was so bad that something happened that they can't even release the damn film. And so they've canceled the remake. Like they made it, right? And the sad thing is, like, I mean, this is I've looked at the actual article and everything, so which Mr. H's reviews is going to look at, and so I felt like it's such a you had a chance for 50 years of trauma, celebration to bring out this this movie, right? To celebrate like one of their most favorite, most well-known characters. I mean, like had a TV show, had collectible cards and action figures. Like only like last month, maybe I put up some videos, like little clips of like having found these art, these 80s friggin' toxic action figures and playthings, like like a boat, toxic boat, whatever, nuclear powered boat thing. And I because if you guys know me, I collect anything to do with pop culture, right? And especially film and like behind me, which is covering this I searched for 2 weeks for this, and then I finally found it. It was fallen behind all the containers of comics by the Wi-Fi plug, right? And then so I was able to put this up, and that's behind that is like and hundreds of toys and figures and stuff like that. And so one of my friends, Shane Evans, like who actually designed these characters that way, right? I mean, I designed, but like he paint, that's his art. But then we had this, let me just pop that off there. We had this, this is his art, and then we had when we were doing the convention, I got these materials and I asked like the Whangarei Girls High School art department, who were like volunteers for the convention. Amazing kids, man. Like seriously, high school kids. Just like they did so much work. I cannot appreciate or say better things than like they were amazing, right? because there were. And so they helped run our event. But one of the things was like, I said to them, hey, what do you guys reckon about, to the tutor? I say, you can do an art piece like to celebrate all your guys' achievements and help for, at the convention and stuff. And so they, I said, I'll bring you over, a 2-meter canvas, and you guys can, if you want, you can paint it. And she said, yeah, that sounds good. Oh, yeah, we'll do that. I said, cool. So they painted it, but themselves. But this is Shane's artwork and stuff. And it's quite large. It's actually, this is just like a 1/3 of the size beyond, I think. Maybe not, yeah, but maybe a 1/4. So, Shane, well, the reason I'm saying that is because Shane, who's a very close friend of mine, he's into trauma, and he's a huge fan of Lloyd. He loves B movies and like Lloyd Kaufman from Trauma films and stuff. And so I said, hey, look, I got these. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. And I said, come over, so I said, these are yours. It's like they're really, these like pieces of work from history, like, I guess not history, but similar history, right? That kind of that thing. But I found like they're re-releasing them, and they could have had, like, with this film, if this film could have been, this film could have revitalized the whole new generation of people getting understanding what indie films, especially the indie horror scene, is about, and could have really done a really huge huge promotion for that scene, right? Because everywhere's like, the mainstream scenes all, it's just same old, like Saw 50,000, that sort of thing. And then here you've got like these guys here who just go out and like make just low budget films that, like, with a lot of heart. And not only that, but put a lot of effort in, and for the last 50 years, right? And Toxic Avenger was, one of my favorites from that studio, right? From those, those guys, right? Trauma Films. And to think that, like, I don't even know why they had Peter Dinklage get involved with it. I really don't know why, because he's like a prima donna of like the little people. And if you've seen his whole thing, how he went out of his way to ruin the careers, or even like the the possible mainstream careers of a lot of little people, right? Dwarfs, whatever you want to call them, right? But they call themselves little people, right? Because they're politically people, right? So we'll go with the little people now. So he didn't want like the whole Snow White to have 7 dwarfs. It's like, but that's the whole key of the story. There's 12 little people, right? Or 7 little people, but there could have been more of them, right? That could have got like side extra work, and they could have like become the new Peter Dinklage, right? But the problem with Peter is he's so up himself that he wants to be the only person, like the prima donna of that whole, those smaller people, right? So cool. And it's just so sad to see someone who's got so much possibility of helping other people like him, and like putting a stop on that so that Snow White doesn't get made with these other young small people, little people, being able to have the opportunities like he's had, because he gets all the little people role, right? So he gets a freaking whatever, but nobody else is allowed to. And it's like the whole idea, right? That how do you go out of your way to stomp on other people like you just so that you get all the money, you get all the promotions, you get to be seen as the what would you call, like the messiah of the little people, yet you stomp on all the it's like almost like if you really think about it, it's like a dictator of that, of the little people. I know a couple locally as well, and it's like, how do you like do that to hold back other people? And this is something like, if you watch Oprah and stuff, and if you watch the Black entertainment community, they talk about this a lot, about Oprah and people similar in her like circles who hold down the Black community from getting better pay as actors and so on. So Nathaniel says here, I knew a guy who tried to use the fact that he was a background extra in a trauma movie to try and pick up chicks. Yeah, it's people tend to do that, right? It's like me going, "Oh, I create comics." Like, yeah, it's like, so, unless you like this, unless you're like Ryan Reynolds, like even, it's like one of my favorite. I guess two of my favorite actors, right, would be like male actors, is like Keanu Reeves, just the humblest dude ever, like just a normal bloke, like the kindest person that you can, anything time you hear about him, it's like the kindest stories about him, right? Just like the bloke's bloke, right? And then also the other one's Ryan Reynolds, who's like this whole, full on, like just straight up in your face, kind of like, but very kind of like, he's a jokester. And I think those two guys are, pretty cool. Now, let's have a look at this thing about well, I carry on trying to get the form this, so I've got like a saucer now I've got to get the other part of it. So let's watch this Mr. H reviews talk about the whole the whole cancellation thing. It's kind of like unreleasable, I should say. Like, I mean, how bad can it be that you can't even check it on a streaming site, or like how bad could this be? Right.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. For those that don't know, there is a Toxic Avenger remake with Peter Dinklage as Toxie. It's filmed.
That's the thing. Like, how the hell do you make a giant mutated dude and then you make him into a little person? Who the hell wrote the script?
Done. It's been sat there for a while. It even screened at some film festivals, and it's never going to be released. It's never going to be released. It's basically deemed unreleasable because they just can't find a distributor. It's way too niche. It never should have been made. Bizarre. Really, really, really bizarre. I don't understand why they decided to remake it. It's just strange to pump money into this. Maybe just money laundering, I guess. This will go down as a tax break, potentially. So hit subscribe if you're new here, folks. Do turn those bell notifications on. Let's take a look. So this is on the World of Real.
Yeah,
and it says Macon Blair's The Toxic Avenger deemed unreleasable. That's right. Even though they have released first look images of everything as well, which you can actually see here. Yes, this is Elijah Wood over here with the hair. Yes.
Kind of looks like Penguin, doesn't it?
This is a thing. This is Elijah Wood.
It looks like Penguin.
Yep. Amazingly. And there was also an image, I can't find it, of Peter Dinklage. Here we go. Here he is in his little tutu. That's right. Yeah, he wore a tutu.
It's like, how the hell do you make
which is
into a little
just
person?
super bizarre.
Yeah.
You can see there. Look at that.
Snow White.
Look at that.
People, right?
The utter state of it. Why did they make this film?
Yeah.
So anyway, goddamn. But anyway, Macon Blair's remake of The Toxic Avenger starring Peter Dinklage released a teaser in October, and ever since it's been crickets. We haven't heard much about it. Well, we did hear the first reactions. So Blair's film, rated R for strong violence, screened at a handful of genre film festivals, and the reviews have been decent. However, the film still has no distributor. It's decent for what it is, right? They weren't great. So it says this. The individual that wrote this article reached out to a producer, and they tell them that the film is unreleasable and that its commercial prospects are, quote, too out there for theatrical release. No shit. They believe that if the film does get picked up, it would most likely go straight to VOD or streaming. If, and this is what it says, if it had great reviews, maybe the forecast would be a little rosier, but there isn't much potential. It's too niche. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see it on Tubi a few years from now. I'll go a step further and I'll say I wouldn't be surprised if it just never gets released. You know, a film like this can just be canned and it can all be a tax break for everyone involved. They can put it down as a tax break. But yeah, pretty crazy. Again, there wasn't good reviews for it. People were just like, what is this? Wasn't great. You know, there was some reasonable reviews, but not universal praise, because it's just a weird thing to remake. So The Toxic Avenger had its first public screening last September at Fantastic Fest. It went on to be seen at Beyond Fest and the Sitges Film Festival. That's about it. Surprised it hasn't even shown up in the just announced Fantasia Film Festival lineup, because they're probably done trying to get it off the ground. And it says here, filmmaker and producer Adam Masnick recently went on Twitter and confirmed that the film has been deemed, quote, not safe enough to market.
How?
Why did you make it?
2024.
Oh my God.
Like,
don't you just wonder how these people...
It's released.
How? Why did it get made? Seriously, why? It's just bizarre. So it's not safe enough to market, which he claims is why no one has stepped up to distribute it. When all is said and done, it could maybe even turn out to be lost media. Yeah, which is what I don't think this is ever being released. But also, who cares? Like, who cares? Peter Dinklage is a little wanker. No one likes him, right? Bloody on his high horse about stuff all the time now. You know, cock blocking other dwarfs into the industry. He's a little sod. So, and what a weird person to get in the role of Toxie as well. He's a good actor in what he's done in Game of Thrones, and he's done some other things that have been reasonably decent here and there. But he's not as toxic. No, man, bizarre.
Yeah.
It says this is factual. This is what I work in movie product licensing. We're officially told as well regarding it. For those who aren't familiar with the original 1984 film, which is a cult following, it tells the story of a janitor who gets exposed to toxic waste, turning him into a deformed superhero, and he then goes on a mission for revenge. So Blair directed the 2017 Sundance winner I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. I did a review of that. And Toxic Avenger in his sophomore follow-up. One has to wonder if we'll ever get to see the film. We probably won't. I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore is actually a pretty decent film. I reviewed it here on the channel. Nice little indie film. And it was pretty decent from Blair, to be fair. Like, it good directing from that chap. And, you know, Peter Dinklage was in that, so it makes sense as to why he got Peter Dinklage on board. He had a working relationship with him. Peter Dinklage doesn't exactly do a lot, does he? Because he's not very good. Again, despite that film being pretty decent, actually. So, yeah. But, yeah, Toxic Avenger, it's a no-go, it seems. Seems like it's a no-go. And you know what? What a shame. Because I'd have loved to have seen... what's his face? Bloody Elijah Wood. Look at this. Look at the absolute state of this. Elijah Wood, where is he? Get some images of this stuff. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Oh, they don't have the images here. Never mind. Here's the teaser trailer. Like, look at this. What is this? I mean, it's just in all ways terrible. Always terrible. I'm not going to play it. I can't be bothered. Like, not properly with noise and stuff like that. Just bloody atrocious. Why did you remake it?
It kind of feels like someone who made it who doesn't understand what made the movie appealing.
Let's have a look at the photos.
Right.
Here's some of it. Look.
You know,
I mean, it's not.
It's like all over the place.
Yeah, it's not good. What is this? Oh, there we go. It's
fucking
look at Elijah Wood.
Right, from Batman.
Oh my God. So this is never coming out. Not really a surprise, is it? I would have liked to have seen Elijah. My God.
But Dinklage just talked.
I would have liked to have seen Elijah Wood, though.
Yeah.
This is Toxie in all of his glory with his mop.
Is it to make a film these days?
Anyway, there you go. There's not much else really to say, to be honest. But that's why.
Seriously, how hard is it for people to, like, these writers not to figure out how to write? Like, I mean, when before I went to film school, right, I was actually making short films for as part of my stage productions, right, and also just so that we could show these stories. And I'm like about 27 years old, and this is like 2000, right? So that's about 24 years ago. I'm doing short films then. I'm making, I'm writing stage productions then, right? Feature length stage productions, not little things. So something from like maybe like a 5-minute skit to like an hour and a half, hour long stage productions 20 years ago. And then like, using borrowing people's handy cams to edit, and then borrowing, one of my friends was an editor, and then I could use his workplace for free to edit these short films into actual well edited films. Even before going to film school to learn how it all works, I already knew how to make it work because I'd spent decades just because I love movies, and it's been something that's been a passion of mine and forever. And so the other option was like, hey, well, I'll go do this if this, I'll go to film school if the, we'll go to this other place, this this uni college, whatever you want to call it, if they have film. And so there's a film degree, right? And they did. And so I went, okay, let's go. Packed up our bags, moved to this other place, and did it. Got my bachelor's degree in film, and like learned even more than I knew. And then also, I'd already been writing scripts. I'd already been writing, stories and for stage and stuff, putting together live, when you're on stage. I was thinking about this yesterday about wrestling, right? I was watching Stardom, the Headless Kurukan, like the big pay-per-view event kind of thing. They had like a 2.5 hour event. And so that's why I was up early this morning watching that. So I realized that wrestling is just basically, pro wrestling, not wrestling, right? Pro wrestling is basically is a like a live stage event. Like it's like a movie live, right? It's a theater event, and that's why people watch it. That's why they because it's in right there with action, right? People get hurt. So that's that's the whole, people go, it's fake, yeah, to a degree. But after that, people do get hurt. The ladies get hurt, the guys get hurt. The Sky Blue from AEW got hurt in the weekend, right? She twisted a knee. The fight, the match couldn't go on, right? And so they had to call I remember who the Japanese wrestler was, a female wrestler there, but she won by default because the match couldn't go on. And so there is that element, there is a theater like, I'm not going to say it, like the fakeness to it, right? But there's also the realism to it. But the other thing is that you're performing live in front of an audience, even if those matches are replayed. But when you're doing pay-per-view, that's live to the entire world. So you got to you watch these these wrestlers who have been taught how to talk, how to act, how to think, as well as learn, spending years, decades sometimes, to to be more skilled, better at delivering those hits, whatever, those spots, as they call them, that so that people watching are able to grab onto what is happening on there and follow their favorites, or or hate on the not so favorite character that's playing that role, right? And then also the twists, right? Like there was one, like I was watching a tag match last night, and the two ladies, right? I can't remember the name of them. I have a problem like trying to remember the good names of Japanese wrestlers, because well, I do know, like, it was God's Eye versus Oeda G or something like that. There was two different factions, and so there was this huge twist at the end on the main event, right? And it was just like, okay, didn't see that come up, and then so the audience is reacting to that live, and they're reacting to to the story being told to them. by these character, these actor characters, wrestlers, right? And that's what I think, that's what's really cool about wrestling, is that it's happening right in front of your face. Like, it's like people going to opera, right? Swan Lake, whatever. You know the story, you know what's going to happen, but you still, are surprised when something different happens, right? That unexpected happens. And so that's why I think people still watch wrestling, because it's like it's like Shakespeare for for fans of action, right? Whatever have you. And that's why I think even I've been watching it since I was like in my teens, right? Mid to late teens. So I should say my mid teens, right? I was about 15, 14 when I was watching it. So 30 odd years back, 35 odd years back. And so when it comes to filmmaking, I just don't know how people, or writing a script, they get it so wrong these days. It's like, why don't you understand that people are so used to stories. They're so used to like know how the spots like in wrestling happen. The same way the beats, we call it beats in in scripts in film, right? This is what you do here. This is how it is. How cannot these these people like who are hired to these write or direct these stories don't know how to do it now? It's like, why can you not do that? What is about this? What is it so hard? Like, you got a century of knowledge that's out there to know how to do this right. How can you not know how to do that right anymore? So I felt like, that's why this the whole thing about Peter Dinklage, this being brought in to be this friggin' toxic Avenger character, right? And then not only that, but like unreleasable. How do you like make it so that's bad that it's like it's not even releasable? So I know with the Batgirl film, like with DC, they didn't release that one, and that's another thing. Like, how do you like get to that stage where you have this, what's like 80 years of characters that you just can't get right suddenly? It's like, because one of the things that I've noticed is that like you get these writers and they want to add their thing to things, right? They want to add their rather than being loyal to the characters themselves and to the people who have come before them, who've written these characters into being, and what people and one of the things that like a lot of people, when it comes to comics, right, is that people know what, like, over time, people who are working on these characters, they know what worked because people were buying that, and they know what doesn't work because people weren't buying that, right? So that's helped them kind of like figure out, what to use in that character and what not, because these characters have been around for decades, right? But if you're like, with something like what we're creating, like, nobody knows what we're creating because it's brand new. So you have an open sort of like door to say, hey, look, this is like a brand new house that we're building. So there is no expectation as to what, kind of like, is it like this character or is it like that character? Is this what happens then? There is none of that, because it's a brand new home. It's so it's people walking in, it's going, oh, that's a nice little kitchen, or that's a nice little painting on the wall, kind of thing. And so you get this like when you're creating comics as a new creator or whatever, you have an kind of like an a foundation to build upon and get people interested in that. However, at the end of the day, people might even not even want it because they have their own expectations, or they don't know what you're doing or how you're doing that, because maybe you haven't marketed enough, or maybe they don't like you personally. That's happened, right, with other stuff. Like, I've seen people who like won't buy stuff from other artists because they don't like the artist's personality, but they don't want to give that art a try because of that person's behavior. It's kind of like, it's like the whole thing of like Megadeth and the whole Metallica thing with Dave Mustaine, and getting kicked out for being oh, he was doing too much drugs, and then realizing that like the guys were doing the same thing, right? Everybody else was doing the thing. It was just like you had two cooks, right? Two head chefs in a band, which being like Hetfield and I'm sorry, not Hetfield. You had Lars Ulrich and you had like Dave Mustaine, who, you know, two very, you know, in your face people, because they're like leaders. They're not like, you know, they're not followers. And so if you have two leaders in a group, it's bad. It's not going to be good, right? And that's what happened, you know, in that case. It was like, okay, we'll just use whatever excuse to get them kicked out, right? And so that beef is going to go on forever. And it's like, you know, for decades, right? So it's like 40 years now, you know, since the 80s. And so that sort of kind of feels like, you know, you can have that in comics as well. But I mean, like, getting back to the whole idea of like, you know, these guys not knowing how to write characters is because they don't read those characters. Like, if you read those characters, if you read those comics, you'd know how those characters behave, how they relate to each other, how they relate to other characters, right? This is getting away from me, so I'm going to have to like cut away at it. It's like now it's like a friggin' bowl. it's nowhere where I wanted with this while I'm talking away, right? So I'm going to chop and change and try to get the other side right. But I think I could basically form it and squish it into shape by just going like this. So we're going to have a look at another video, and I've got set up here, and this is something different. This is to do with in New Zealand, like in America, it's kind of like you guys are on other places, you know, have already got this, right? But this is something new for New Zealand. This is medical marijuana, right? Has been given the go ahead, and they're lifting, you know, changing the legal things around it. So this is a bit news on that. Oops.
The shackles are off. That's how a player in New Zealand's medicinal cannabis sector is describing the government's move to streamline export rules for the product. The shackles are off. That's how a player in New Zealand's medicinal cannabis sector is describing the government's move to streamline export rules for the product. The Trade Minister says year-round growing conditions give local companies an advantage over international competitors. Abby Wakefield reports.
Unlocking the door to overseas markets for New Zealand's medicinal cannabis.
A few champagne corks have been popped. There's a huge sense of relief and also a lot of excitement and optimism about what the future is going to hold for all of us.
Cabinet recently approved changes to export rules for medicinal cannabis. Now, operators only have to meet regulations for export markets and not New Zealand's guidelines.
Requirements in other markets conflicted with the New Zealand requirements, and that just prevented exports for a lot of players in the industry.
Providing a lifeline for the industry.
Almost everybody was really struggling to keep their staff and to keep their research programs, to keep the lights on.
With the opportunity to compete in what is a rapidly growing global market.
The export potential of the medicinal cannabis industry is huge. It could rival the wine industry in a few years.
The Trade Minister told One News that New Zealand's competitive advantages include year-round growing conditions. That also means we have a lower carbon footprint than other competitors. Todd McLean says changing export guidelines could help with plans to double all exports in the next decade.
They have gone a long way in getting us to the starting line, and now let's see how far we can take it.
Domestic use for medicinal cannabis has doubled in the past year, but it's pricey. This Wellington GP prescribes it to about 10 of his patients.
It kind of depends how much they're being prescribed, but generally people will be spending $150 to $400 a month, depending on dosages.
These changes to improve export regulations are really a win for Kiwi patients because it will drive more competition locally and more affordable products down the road for Kiwi patients.
New Zealand's clean green reputation about to get a little bit greener. Abby Wakefield, One News.
It's funny, like, just I'm going to work backwards from here, right? So it's funny how they say that New Zealand's clean green. You know, it's kind of sad. Like yesterday, we're like a friend of mine and Jason and I were walking downtown, and you know they have like we're trying to be like, you know, it's conscientious about this, or like, you know, it's not like bad, you know, downer on this as you know, as it might get. But like, we spend like promoting New Zealand as this clean green place that's like really, you know, clean, yeah, basically we keep saying that it's clean, it's green, and it's all this, but it's really over the years, like it's gotten like it's very not so, right? They spend millions and millions and millions of you know, tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars promoting New Zealand as a clean green place. However, if you walk, if you're driving past on the road, on the main roads, you see rubbish everywhere, which is kind of like a downer if you're like me, who loves our, you know, who loves conservation, who loves our clean, you know, our country. And it's kind of sad to see just rubbish everywhere, like, you know, and it's just gross, to be honest. And to have these, you know, this whole, oh, it's clean, it's green, it's all this, it's, you know, it's, and promoting that to the world, it's kind of feels like you're lying, you know, as a nation, because when people come here and they see it and they go, some places are really nice and clean and the other places aren't. And so if you've got like, if you're promoting your country as a clean green place, you at least got to spend the money to, you know, work on the actually keeping it nice and clean. However, I find like over the last 10, 20 years, our country has become very, you know, dirty, in the sense like rubbish is on the side of the road. People just, you know, just throwing rubbish out of their car window. You see like McDonald's trash everywhere. You see like energy bottles. You see like plastic, you know, potato chip, whatever you want to call it, you know, bags, lolly bags, everything along the side of the road. And this is, it might, you know, it's like kind of like 50-50 locals and tourists. Just, oh yeah, we'll just throw out the window. But you know, that sort of is kind of sad, because if you are trying to spend tens of millions of dollars or hundreds over, if you look at over the decades that we've spent to give the world an image of New Zealand being this clean, beautiful, clean place, right, or green image, right? It's, and then when the tourists come here, go, oh, what is with this? And then not only that, then also some tourists come, you know, because of where they come from, right? Their own personal countries where it's not so clean and green, their behavior also adds to our country receiving that sort of like non-clean green image, because those guys are involved also in behaving the way they behave in the other places. And I mean, like, you know, if you go in certain countries, you'll find like people throw their rubbish out the window. So you have like tourists who would come over and do the same thing here. And which is kind of sad, because like, you know, it's it makes us look like a dirty place. Like our country looks like dirty when you have rubbish everywhere, right? And the worst is like, you know, when there's a rubbish bin just there, and just like 5 meters away, people have thrown it just on, you know, either it's blown out of the rubbish bin because it hasn't been emptied, or that people just are sitting there in their car and just throwing out the, you know, just throwing on the ground. And as you know, like plastic doesn't break down, right? It's just, and even aluminum, right? Takes years to break down. And so paper is fine, because paper will, you know, start rotting off and breaking up easy. But plastic, you know, and tin cans and stuff like that, plastic bottles, they don't break down that quickly, right? That's why most of them end up in the sea. And so trying to get that clean green image out there is like, feels like a lie, because, you know, not both locals and tourists are adding to, like, you know, taking away from that beautiful green image that we have of our country. The other part of that is like, you know, when we're looking at this this video, like I'm going to play that again just so you guys can get an idea. For us as Kiwis, we've struggled with the whole idea of you know, this medical marijuana, right? Of like we haven't I'm just going to put the we haven't really had the opportunity to, like the guy was saying, I've it's at $500 for 10 of my patients, a month. Yeah, but you could go, if you know a friend knows your friend, you could get that for $20. And this whole commercialization of so-called medical marijuana is because now the government can make money off registration of that. So that's why they're making it easier. However, like one of my brothers, right? When he was a young kid, like in his teens, on his 20s, he got arrested and put in jail for like having a cigarette, like a marijuana cigarette in his pocket. That ruined his life, right? I mean, like to a certain degree, because it meant he was now just, going into prison for a freaking cigarette, a joint, right? Let's call it a joint. So you don't run. Like when I say cigarette, I keep thinking it's like tobacco, but yeah, a marijuana joint, right? So the fact is that he went to prison as a young kid because he was, a cop came up and he was smoking and he couldn't get rid of it enough or whatever was the case, because I really don't want to say too much on that. But he ended up in prison as a young kid. And now he's amongst all these prisoners who are adults and stuff. And I look at him and I go, dude, you had to deal with all that, and all because of a friggin', tobacco, like a joint, right? And that sort of like screwed his life. Like seriously, to be honest, he's got kids and all that, so I don't want to speak too much about my brother, but like, but he got involved in other stuff because of that, and he survived the prison system, but it wasn't easy on him, and it was really sad to see that. And it's kind of really affected his whole life, affected people around him, affected his family, and so on, and relationships. Because seriously, it's like, the only way I can think of it is like, it's going to war, right? Going to prison is like going to war. You're like, basically, you're going to be dehumanized. You're going to be, you're going to have other people there doing shit. And if you've watched anything on like real prison life, right? Because I've watched the ones that they've done in America and stuff, and it's quite sad. What it's like. You basically like treated like animals, and I understand that. Like some things you need to be in prison for, but over a joint, I was like, even at 20, even as a teenager, I couldn't understand that, right? And he's only a couple of years older than me. But anyway, Nathaniel says here, surely there is a prominent legalized. There is, man. There's been a prominent legalization movement in New Zealand for decades, right? But the idea here is like, they try to treat, they've always treated marijuana as like this class A drug or whatever they want to call it, like the main, our version of like cocaine, right? And so with that, it's really kind of like they've gone down hard on anyone who's kind of steps out of line in there. Like, so there's been like, for I've been around people who've grown, who've not grown, sorry, who've bought and sold it, right, and so forth. And the other thing is that like we've known for, I did a paper on friggin', on medical marijuana, on the aspects of like what, like as part of my degree, right? Because I felt like there was something that needed to be discussed. I did a whole essay on it, right? And so this is way back about 14 years ago, and how it would be great for like a country like Fiji to plant cannabis for hemp, right? For clothing, for because it's such for material, clothing, canvas, stuff like that, right? So you can it could be used for so many products, right? Food as well for animals and so forth, and like that, the seed for oil, and it was like a very big paper, right? And because I did a lot of research on it, I spent like about maybe 4 months researching it, looking at everything of it. every angle of it, and looking into documentaries and stuff, looking into papers and videos, what have you. But the idea is like, until the government goes, oh, now we can make money of it because other people around the world are making money of it, America's making money of it, now we can like allow people to smoke this for health reasons, for pain relief, right? So one of the things that I looked into, right, so went back in Fiji and elsewhere, right, people would use it for pain relief like early on, like I'm talking about 1800s, right? They'd use they'd go and work a 15-hour day because that's what it was like when under like slavery or indentured labor as it was in Fiji. You basically work for 5 years and you got to you got to go and have a piece of land, and that was you there now, right? When you come out of like India, you were able to be brought over as out of other countries as well, Mauritius and so on, other places did that, Africa. You got to work in the fields and plantations. This was after slavery. 1885 is when it started in Fiji and lasted for about 30 years before they realized, or 35 years before they realized this was basically just like slavery. They were just using like government ordained, regulations to treat people like slaves. And so that was stopped. And that's how you have like about 40% of Indians in Fiji, like the ratio to everybody else, the population, I mean. So, but like to see these guys like now go, oh, we're going to lift the regulations, we're going to make it easier after we take all this huge tax breaks off it, or your cousin's getting rid of it for you for $20. Right, because he goes here like it's one of the doctors here, I mean chemists, whatever, is or doctors prescribing to his patient $500 a month, right? Who's got that spare? I was like, oh no, oh yeah, we're going to give it like a government subsidy because they need that. It's like, well, they could just go find somebody who grows it themselves without going through all the regulations about having to be registered as a user, and then now your name's on the registration of the government thing, and now you can get to it. It's just it's been a stupid thing forever, and it's just it's harmed so many people's life, like I mentioned, like my own brother, right? One of my brothers, right? And so to see that, it's like just disgusting how now they're treating it like because we can make money off it, now it's okay.
The shackles are off. That's how a player in New Zealand's medicinal cannabis sector is describing the government's move to streamline export rules for the product. The Trade Minister says year-round growing conditions give local companies an advantage over international competitors. Abby Wakefield reports.
Unlocking the door to overseas markets for New Zealand's medicinal cannabis.
A few champagne corks have been popped. There's a huge sense of relief and also a lot of excitement and optimism about what the future is going to hold for all of us.
Cabinet recently approved changes to export rules for medicinal cannabis. Now, operators only have to meet regulations for export markets and not New Zealand's guidelines.
Requirements in other markets conflicted with the New Zealand requirements, and that just prevented exports for a lot of players in the industry.
Providing a lifeline for the industry.
Almost everybody was really struggling to keep their staff and to keep their research programs, to keep the lights on.
With the opportunity to compete in what is a rapidly growing global market.
The export potential of the medicinal cannabis industry is huge. It could rival the wine industry in a few years.
The Trade Minister told One News that New Zealand's competitive advantages include year-round growing conditions. That also means we have a lower carbon footprint than other competitors. Todd McClay says changing export guidelines could help with plans to...
The carbon footprint's a friggin' fallacy. I think it's the most disgusting thing they think about. Like, you go like friggin' Kim Kardashian, traveling to the friggin' world, like there's, I think, to some friggin' billionaire over in India's wedding. Yet there I'll be out this day saying, oh, what is like global warming and all this crap about, and then they'll be like traveling, all these rich elites will be traveling on their friggin', private jets and shit. And You know, it's same as like, you know, you got the whole Greta Thunberg thing. Like, she'll be right. How did you get there? Oh, flew on a plane. Well, why didn't you use a ship? Why didn't you use a wind thing, right? After all, you're all about that. So, and the other thing, the worst things of most, the biggest carbon polluter in the world is China. All right, like seriously. Yet we don't have that sort of pollution. We don't add. We're very clean when it comes to, like, that's why on that side of things we're very clean. We go because we don't you know, we don't pollute anything, yet we as a small friggin' tiny little nation have to pay these huge hefty fees to, you know, to friggin' pay just so we can like let China do whatever the hell they want with pollution, like chemicals and all that into the air. But a tiny nation like ours gets crippled by the whole you know, carbon footprint thing, which basically holds us back from advancing as a country financially, right? So, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, oh, it's carbon footprint, so it's just using, you know, green language to try to keep our farmers back from competing in the world, right? And like, it's just like, I mean, the reason behind is to keep us from growing as a nation. You know, it's like us arguing over like spending money on like an unnamed change of a freaking town, right? It's just a stupid, you know, nonsensical things to just keep us from advancing, you know, holding us back from like, hey, you know, this money can be spent better elsewhere. Let's do that. Oh, no, we got to pay this into this because of this. Yeah, but they could be used elsewhere. You know, the same thing with this thing, right? It's like, oh, well, let's put all these regulations to make sure that they can, you know, only take out this from this, so that now we can now put a, you know, regulated, and then we can sell it as medical marijuana when you can just go buy a freaking $20 joint and you'll be fine, right? It's just the whole rubbish. Yeah, so basically something that's this big, size of my small finger, $20. Right. So that's what we call like a bullet, or, you know, and a foil, or, you know, or $5 joint, which is for US it'd be around about $15, maybe $12. Yeah, actually, yeah, $12. I think it's about $12 for something like that. Like, you know, it's like was it like about 5 centimeters, something like that, or 5 or 7 centimeters, and about 1 centimeter across. But the guy says about the medical marijuana type of thing, right?
To double all exports in the next decade.
They have gone a long way in getting us to the starting line, and now let's see how far we can take it.
Domestic use for medicinal cannabis has doubled in the past year, but it's pricey. This Wellington GP prescribes it to about 10 of his patients.
Kind of depends how much they're being prescribed, but generally people will be spending $150 to $400 a month, depending on dosages.
These changes to improve export regulations are really a win for Kiwi patients because it will drive more competition.
How is it like a win for Kiwi patients? Was it like $150 to $500 a month for pain relief? And the reason I mentioned this, like, I mean, I don't use it myself, right? But I'm in pain 24/7, right? And so that's why you don't see me like, I'm always changing the streams, because I wake up, I'm in pain, so I got to wait and make sure that the medication that I take, it brings my body back to, you know, to be able to like, you know, to be on stream and not feeling like constantly think about like, I'm sore now. I'm like, you know, my neck's, you know, not working, my back's aching now. I've got a migraine. Because I've due to accidents and head injuries and assaults and so on, right? I have a spine and neck injury, which causes me 24-hour pain, like chronic pain. So, yeah, the class is chronic pain syndrome, and I've had it for like since about 2007, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And so I have to manage my pain, you know, constantly. So, you know, usually I'll just lie in bed and take the med until I feel okay. enough to be able to move out and get a cup of coffee, make a cup of coffee, brush my teeth and so on. And then I'm okay. Then I'll go back and start work. But to think like, the reason I don't take it personally, right? I don't smoke it personally, is because it affects my, I've had, with my brain, I get paranoid. I can't like concentrate. I get all, unnerved, right? And so I can't use it personally, right? In the sense of that. So if I do, I need to like maybe like consume it like in a biscuit or in a fudge or a chocolate, whatever you want, right? And then go to sleep. That's the only way. But then like I'm okay. Then that's during the sleep. So it's not really working with me on me to help me anyway, because I'm sleeping, so I can't actually be without pain during the day, because that means I can't work. And so I've always had like this thing, no, I can't use this with my creation. So anytime I'm actually creating anything, it's just me, not affected by alcohol, not affected by marijuana or anything else. And so for me, it's no good for me at all anyway. But you've got people with head injuries that have been like trying for years to say, hey, listen, man, for decades, we need this. We know this is good for us. This is natural. Yet people are like, have been imprisoned for it, for using it. And now the government gets involved and gets, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's making a lot of money overseas. So let's like treat it like it's wine. But then you've been treating it like it's been cocaine for decades. And we've been telling you for decades, this is good for, for the country. It's good for the growing, for hemp. Like you can make canvas out of it. You can make clothing, all this stuff. We've been saying that for decades, right? Like I mentioned, like 10 years ago, right? Was it 10 years? 14 years ago. Yeah, 2010. I actually wrote an essay on it, like after doing research, how it would be great for a country like little old Fiji to get involved in the hemp, into the hemp, clothing scene, because it'd be really great to produce it for, as a place, that's like a tropical place where you could grow it 4 times a friggin' year, right? Because what happened was like a few decades ago, the American corn syrup industry, right, decided that sugar was bad, right? This is how it works. You get a lobbying group who tells people, who comes up with lots of money and goes, this item, which is natural, you could just basically squeeze it and drink it, put it into your, your tea or coffee, right? Because it just comes out of syrup. The sugar cane, right, is bad for you, because when they go across and take all the, the brown out of it, the natural coloring out of it, and now you got white, it's bad for you. Not that it's bad for you if you keep having like cups and cups of it, right? And your drinks and your Coca-Cola and your, whatever, because like, which is what they do now with corn syrup. Corn syrups is in everything. And now you go, well, why has it been like over the last 2 decades that Americans have become very overweight? Why is it like even people overseas are becoming overweight, that they weren't overweight or obese, right? Let's just use not overweight, obese. Why are they so obese, right? Well, that's because they've been eating this unnatural thing called corn syrup as a replacement for natural sugar. And so what that did to a little island like Fiji was, because that was one of the major industries, right? Sugarcane was one of the major industries for the farmers there. They'd been growing for 100 freaking years, right? And so, excuse me. And so because of that, all of a sudden, these lobbyists basically got in there. So everybody was saying sugar's bad for you. Well, how come sugar's bad for you after 100 years of eating it? And we know all that, we've done all the studies and stuff. Oh, no, it's bad for you because we don't want to tell you, but because we want to bring out stuff like corn syrup. This unnatural, stuff that we've processed out of a natural thing. And we want to put it into everything and replace sugar. And we need, because it's not, we can make more money of it. We can regulate it. What is it called? You can patent it and we can now make money of, like millions and millions and billions of dollars of this one item. We need to destroy this thing that's natural, and so on. It's the same like with medical marijuana, right? You could just go friggin' smoke one, right, or get the oil out of it, and you're good. However, now because they want to regulate it into a whole industry, and they found that Americans and Canadians are making hundreds of billions of dollars, right? Let's just be straight up. They're making billions of it that can be taxed. Now we're going to do it in New Zealand, right? And next you'll have like that whole friggin' rubbish thing that will be attached to this organic, right? Organic marijuana, right? And it'll be like organic this, and it'll be like worth 10 times the price or 5 times the price of a natural thing that you can get off a dude off the street. And this is the way governments work, where unless they can make money off something, they won't open it up, or they'll keep it illegal, right? And they'll use it like, oh, it's bad for this, it's bad for that, it's bad for that. Listen, you can regulate it to make sure the kids don't get to it. Fine. But if you're going to put a 16-year-old in prison for 10 years for having a joint in his pocket or smoking a joint, who's that benefiting, right? Who's that really benefiting at the end of the day? And it's not benefiting anybody. All it's doing is just showing how you guys are now turning around decades later to say, oh, you know what? Yeah, we were wrong, because now we can make money of it. We can, we'll let you have it. We'll do it. But guess what? We'll charge you $150 to $500 for the same thing you could pay $40 for a month use, right? And I think that's why I got pissed off when I saw this. It's like, why? You've put a family member of mine in prison for a joint, right? And yet here you're like, oh, we're going to benefit from them, so we're going to open all the regulations. Yet you're probably still going to friggin' go and imprison someone for having a joint on the street or at a party, right, or something like that, or at a concert. So I don't understand. I mean, it's taken like 2 decades for my other family members to go, oh yeah, now I get it. Now I get this now, right? Now I understand the whole medical marijuana side of this, the pain relief side of this. I said, like, yeah, I was saying this like about 14 years ago, right? Because the thing is, like, if you don't friggin' research the items, you shouldn't about something, you shouldn't be really speaking on it, and especially like. And the other side of this is like easy to control something when you're sitting on your high horse as a politician who've never, because you want to, you kind of want to like cater to that hardline people that are against that, right? But by doing so, you're actually damaging, stopping people from getting pain relief naturally, because you rather have big pharma, get money from chemicals instead. And we saw that like with, we saw the whole thing with COVID and that whole concept of like how they made billions, right? They made 8 people became billions within days of COVID, right? Because of the whole, or we could have this, but there was another product out there that had been used forever. But they did the same thing that they did to sugar, right? Where they like maligned that thing that's been around for ages, that's been used for that sort of thing, but they would malign that because now they can use this new product they suddenly came up with that they could use to make billions off. And that's why, like, for me, I was personally like, yeah, I don't trust these people, because I know how they behave around medication and all this stuff, and how they politicize these things to make billions off them. Because I've seen it, like, with the study around marijuana, and you see how until they could get enough regulators in there to make money off it, they wouldn't lift a hand to legalize it. And until they saw America and Canada do it, they didn't make a step towards it. And then it was too late. Now it's too late, right? Now it's like, oh, we're so far behind now. It's like sometimes I feel like even though we're such an advanced country in New Zealand, you know, out here, sometimes we just follow America. You know, we wait for others instead of like letting our, you know, our communities actually talk, you know, say, hey, listen, we need to move. We need to act on this now. It's like right now, like there's, you know, it took them forever to accept, you know, funding for comic books in New Zealand, right, as an art form, right? So if you created a comic book in New Zealand, you were treated like some junk, you know, some, you know, low class creative person, right? You were in class as a literature person, you know, and that took decades to get there. And so, you know, and then on top of that, you had to meet all these freaking regulations, right? It's like it had to be cultural. It had to do with something to advance your own country's thing, rather than saying, hey, you know, I'm just creating great, you know, stories to tell. You know, I'm just creating stories to tell stories that I think will be enjoyable for everybody. Oh no, you got to do it for this specific people, right? You got to cater to this specific ethnic minority group, so-called, right? And I don't even understand the whole minority groups anymore, because it's freaking everybody's got enough amount of people in the world to kind of like be a minority group, right? I mean, not be a minority group. And I think, and all that comes down to is like, how do you regulate where the funds go? That's all it always comes down to, is regulations, who gets what. You know, if you have a darker skin, then you get this funding. If you have a lighter skin, then you get that funding. And if you're white, you don't get nothing. You just struggle, right? And so, and I've seen that happen in my own family, right? If you're a lighter skin of brown, you don't get nothing, right? And so I think this whole minority things and this, you know, this funding for like, it's because these people are, you know, having it tough in their life. Everybody has it tough in their life. We don't, like there's a song goes, we never get out alive, right? We never leave out here, you know, alive, this world. Everybody has a hard life. Nobody's getting it easy, right? The only people that get it easy are who are ultra rich, right? Who can't, like the Kardashians, have got rich off being nobodies, right? Basically, just being, you know, just selling them, you know, kind of whoring themselves out to the general public, right? With reality TV and shit. And so, you know, or who they're screwing and stuff, and now it's out there. But if you're just a regular bloke or lady on the, you know, from wherever, you are struggling to get, you know, get ahead in life. And then next thing you're told, like, oh, your skin's too light or your skin's too dark, and so forth, you're not going to get funding for this. And so in 2022, you're still, you know, held back because of your look that you never, you know, or your ethnic race, because you had no choice on how you arrived in this world. You just arrived in this world, right? Or how you arrived in the family. And so with that, you know, the world is like, you know, people are always making like regulations to make sure that you're held back, or making excuses about why they're being held back, right? And this is like recently I was watching this, as I mentioned earlier, I was watching, you know, I watch wrestling, and so there was this lady. Actually, hold on, I'll grab the video so you don't have to listen to me rehash it. But I think it's on Wrestling Rambling, so you can actually watch the lady talk herself into the situation. I mean, about the situation, not into the situation. Where are we? It's the last post they did. I think it was. That one. Yeah, so there's two bits. So there's this one here, and then there's another one afterwards. Let me just bring this here on screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This is to do with Hulk Hogan and this influencer. Like, this is, it's like a misnomer, whatever they call it, influencer thing, you know. So this is it here.
In a recap of events having to do with Hulk Hogan allegedly relieving a brand ambassador due to their race, Ringside News wrote that Hulk Hogan has faced numerous accusations in the past, with racism topping the list. A woman aspiring to be a social media influencer recently saw her dreams dashed when Hulkster allegedly crushed her hopes of becoming a brand ambassador. She claims going public about it led to her being blackballed. As since July, the influencer used TikTok to reveal that Hogan hired her as an ambassador for his real American beer, but fired her the next day upon discovering she is black. Since making this accusation public, Janai says work opportunities have dried up for her. In response to the allegation from Janai, a spokesperson for the brand said, "We are deeply troubled by the false rumors circulating on social media that a brand ambassador hired by a third-party marketing agency was terminated by Hulk Hogan for racial reasons. Real American Beer simply terminated its short-term relationship with the third-party marketing agency. Hulk Hogan was not involved in that decision, and race was not a factor. We are in communication with the agency in an attempt to clear the misunderstanding and incorrect information, and believe that this false statement will be withdrawn." The accuser has now said this in a clip on TikTok.
Hey guys, I just want to start by saying thank you for the overwhelming amount of support that I received over my most recent viral video regarding the cancellation of my contract for Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer. I was hired by an agency better known as brandambassadors.com, and for those who have been asking, I have yet to receive any justification as to why my contract was even canceled. Unfortunately, after everything happened, in full transparency, I have yet to be booked by another brand, and I truly believe that it's due to this situation. I was contracted to promote Real American Beer for the first week of July, starting on the 2nd and ending on the 6th, but after my first day of work on the 2nd, my contract was abruptly canceled with no reason as to why, which is so weird because I later discovered that the events were not canceled and I was actually replaced by a whole new group of brand ambassadors. Now, this is the first time that I have ever experienced such treatment in this industry, and I just want to know why. Why was my contract canceled? Now, this situation is very unfortunate, but I believe that it highlights a broader issue here with minority influencers, content creators, and brand ambassadors all across the world. We often encounter disparities in our pay, recognition for our contribution, and what is the reasoning as to why. Lack of communication and fairness in this instance is a huge reminder of the challenges that we continue to face in this industry. And for those who have sent kind messages and responses to my previous video, I appreciate the overwhelming support during this time. Since this incident, I have realized that it is my purpose to be an advocate for minority influencers, content creators, and brand ambassadors all across the world. This situation will not be swept under the rug, and my statement will not be withdrawn. We need answers. Why was my contract canceled, Hulk Hogan? Why was my contract canceled, Real American Beer? Why was my contract canceled, brandambassadors.com?
Is it like there's a most ridiculous thing, right? Like, hey, I didn't get the job. It's because I'm black, right? That's the only reason. I was telling that to my friend yesterday, like, on a weekly, bi-weekly, like 3 hours walking around shopping yesterday, and he said, you know what would be really funny if the person that they that they hired to replace her was actually black. And like, but the weird thing about this is like, it's just just because you got hired to do a job, it's not a guarantee, because there's other people go for the job as well. I mean, it's like these like young 20-year-olds have no idea what it's like to be in the workforce. I mean, I've been in, I started like working when I was 16, like for actual companies, right? not just like a little corner shop or something small, mum and dad or something like that. But prior to that, you know, like I was working in our own mum and dad's like dairy, right? They were like a pie shop, you know, kind of thing, bakery. And so, you know, it's like, so you know, you get used to customers, you get used to people and stuff, and you learn that everybody's different. But but if you're going for a job, right, you know, and especially in this whole called influencer brand marketing, you know, before it was just like models, right, promotions, now it's influencer, right? So you got this whole you might have like 100,000 people following you because they just think you look nice, nothing to do with what you say or anything like that. Or might be somebody might be following you because they like what you do, like, you know, like those exercise videos and makeup videos and all that stuff, or you know, or whatever you talk about. But that whole culture of influencing and influencer is like just so weird for me. It's like, you know, there's only like 1% is ever gonna like make it out there in the world. And so this lady basically goes, well, I didn't get it, therefore it's because I'm black or because of my race. And so now then she goes, then she uses her, you know, whoever it's out there on TikTok, whatever it is, to put the company that's actually hiring other people, that actually gave other people jobs, on blast. And it's like, this is, you know, it's like call to action, you know, this is such and such, you know, and so now you should boycott that and such and such. And it's got nothing to do with it apart from the fact that they just didn't probably liked her attitude. They probably saw her video and, you know, branding and stuff, and then they had a look at who this person was, and they just thought, oh well, that's not going to fit our, you know, our brand. We don't think that she would work, and had nothing to do with, as they mentioned, had nothing to do with Hogan, because Hogan's not the one who makes the decision, right? It's basically his you know, if at that level, it's like the promotion company, the advertising company dealing with the branding company, right? So it's like marketing company. It's all that level. It's like, you know, the last thing Hogan's going to talk about is like, oh, okay, I think it's okay. But it's like this whole previous story of like Hulk Hogan being a racist and all that, which, you know, came out about a decade or so ago back. But to be honest, I think everybody's racist to a certain point, right? I've you know, it doesn't matter. Everybody is a racist to a certain point. It's like, you know, it's like saying, oh, you know, everybody has a bit of hate for somebody else and their, you know, some other race in their system because of whatever, how they're raised, that little bit of interaction they had that like got out of control, and so they took on, it's because of this race, and that's why it's because I was this, because of that, and they carry that through their life, and until they meet someone from that same race who is different, right? Who's nicer, kinder person, and is loving and caring, and then oh shit, I thought all these bad things about you people, and now I'm like thinking. And it's the same thing here, right? So like, oh, because of him, and now you know, it's because of his racism and all that. That's why it's picked up. The problem here is like when you're a 20-year-old or a teenager, whatever you're putting out online is there forever. And the sad part of this is that none of these so-called influencers or these, you know, TikTokers and all that realize that, you know, that they like that, you know, that you're this is out there forever. That your new boss, your future boss, and their work, you know, and your work, you know, their workers will see this someday, and they'll go, look, I don't really want to. That is true. Yeah, I get that, right? So Nathan's saying if you get sick, though you're at least due an explanation. And I agree with that as well. Like, why did I get fired, right? It's like, for this or that, so you can better yourself. But then, like, what if she did get an explanation, but she wasn't happy with, right? It's like sometimes and the other thing, she's like, I've never felt this way before, you know, I've never been through this before. It's like, it kind of makes me think that she's never been told no, right? Or never been fired, or never been let go from her work, right? So she's like that that alpha, the generation which is now coming up, the alpha generation, which is never being told no, and they get they get given whatever they want, and nobody tells them no. And it kind of feels like maybe she's got that, and then of course with Nathaniel saying she deserves explanation. I mean, I've walked off jobs and I haven't given an explanation because I just felt like not to the boss. I've just said I can't deal with this because the way, I guess, just the environment isn't a great environment. But the other thing is like maybe somebody else, she said something to somebody, and the management got wind of it. And they're like, rather than making it a big deal about, hey, this is why you got fired, and HR is calling you for this, just go, okay, look, you went for the job, you didn't get it, but we've got this other people replacing you. I mean, doing the job, going through with the job, right? And I don't know if the one thing I keep thinking about these things is like these videos are here forever, right? These little, even if you deleted the Wayback Machine, so-called, you can find what you're saying, and your future bosses. This is why it's something I think is you got to be careful about what you do online. Like I try not to be online, doing live streams unless I'm in the right scope of mind, because if I'm feeling, angry or something about something, and if I go online, I'll be talking a whole lot of crap, which, could be misconstrued and could get out, could come across as being, hateful or whatever. It could ruin my future endeavors or whatever. And I think a lot of people are not seeing that as that. And so you see a lot of like, people ruining their futures because of just that moment of being online and doing that. And then later on, just because I've done that, it's like, oh, it's because I was drunk. It's because I was taking this drug or that drug. And so, on medication. But I was thinking about this and I was thinking, man, I just got to, I got to be careful when I'm online and so on, because even though I'm 50, right, it's not going to be working for anybody in the future or something like that, because I work for myself. But even with that, people could take anything you say out of context, and it's been done over and over again anyway. But actually putting out a video blasting some company because he didn't get a job, that's also going to give ammo for other companies to go, well, I don't think I want to work with that person. I don't think we want to deal with that sort of behavior in our workplace. If we fire her for whatever reason, maybe she comes in here and starts, saying stuff that we don't agree with, or going out there and we fire her. Now she's going to go online and she's going to start talking about how bad we treated her, and because and sort of use racism as a thing, as a backdrop. But the one thing I really found interesting was when she says, let me just quote this part here again, right, where she says, I'm going to be a person now, right?
Disparities in our pay, recognition as a broader issue here, because I was contracted to promote Real American Beer, canceled with no reason as to why. Starting on the 2nd and ending on the 6th. But after my first day of work on the 2nd, my contract was abruptly canceled with no reason as to why, which is so weird because I later discovered that the events were not canceled and I was actually replaced by a whole new group of brand ambassadors.
Which kind of makes me feel like
this is the first time that I have ever experienced such treatment in this industry, and I just want to know why. Why was my contract canceled? Now, this situation is very unfortunate, but I believe that it highlights a broader issue here with minority influencers, content creators, and brand ambassadors all across the world. We often encounter disparities in our pay, recognition for our contribution, and what is the reasoning as to why? Lack of communication and fairness in this instance is a huge reminder of the challenges that we continue to face in this industry. And for those who have sent kind messages and responses to my previous video, I appreciate the overwhelming.
So she's using this losing a job, and the reason, like, if somebody fires you after after hiring you, and then they choose to go with somebody else, it sounds to me like she did something to upset the cat, right? Whatever, or said something and the bosses heard about it, or they found that maybe looked into her, like into her online presence, right? Which is what we're talking about here, right? Your online presence. If so, they looked into her online presence. What is her behavior like on TikTok? Is this the person we want to work with or future? She could have just went, so hey, I didn't get the job. So is there any other jobs? That's it. And that's, it was like, okay, so like I've been through this myself, right? Spent friggin' an hour with like a job broker, right? And I said, listen, like I'm looking for another job, same field. So we go and have like coffee and stuff and talk about it. We'll go through, friggin' like maybe like 5 friggin' other jobs are available with my level of what would you call it, like experience, right? Like senior experience. Like I've been in this business for like say 7-8 years, right? At this point. And so is there a job that's where I can get this job and it'll give me the money that I want and it'll be where I want to move to, and then it'll also be in the dates, kind of like it'll give me the right working time, right? Like so it was like Tuesday to Saturday, which meant like I would get a Saturday, which would mean like a lot of people would come in on that Saturday, because people work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, but on Saturday they would go into the go and spend their money, right? Have gotten the checks and stuff. So I'll be like, hey, I'll do a Tuesday to Saturday shift. And so we'd sit there going through this, and he'll get his pay from he'll get his pay from the firm that hires him, right? The workplace that hires them to be a job broker, right? And so I can see I remember this like about maybe 2007. Yeah, 2000, this like so far back. We sit there, have a coffee, and he's going through his list, goes, oh, this is there. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's too far away from where I am. Okay, next one. All right, this looks good. So what are they think? Oh, assistant manager job. Okay. All right, okay, let's go for that one. Right, that's going to actually get me to get upskilled. It'll like you go in as a sales, but they're going to train you up to be assistant manager twice, right? And then you walk in there and you find out like they're not really going to give you the assistant manager job. They're just using you to get you in there to get your skills, right? And it happened to me twice. And so I could go, oh no, it's because I'm an Indian, because all this. Nothing to do with it. The fact was that they wanted to make sure they got me in to do the good job without giving me the position. So I left. After a month, I was like, "Yo, okay, I need a new one." Went back to my broker and said, "Hey, look, man, this is what they said. I've been around them for a month. There's no way, I've learned everything. I learned how to, everything I needed to think, and this place is just not going to do it for me." And so, learned how to be a friggin' forklift driver as well. Never done that before. And so thought, hey, show me half an hour how to do that. Now I've got a new skill, right? And then so after that, another job, I was like, okay, let's go do this other job. And then I was, getting set up, and that's when I had my car accident, right? And then started like, okay, can't stand up. That was it. That was the end of my career in anything, because even in filmmaking, right? Because I couldn't stand up for more than 3 hours. And that was like, even like yesterday, I was walking around for like 2 hours and my heels were like, I said to my friend, I said, like, it feels like my, so this is the bottom of your feet, right? Your heels, right? And the bone's coming up, and it feels like a bone is crunching against that soft, part of your heel. I'm like, both legs. I'm like, dude, yeah. And so I got home and I was like in so much pain, and like I was in pain at thing there, and I was like, okay, that's it. But one thing, it's like, there's like, I remember my sister, right, who's very light skinned compared to me because she's half Indian, half English, right, European. And she was in a meeting, and there was a guy there with scholarships, and he said, if you look like me, like a bit kind of lighter skinned than me, then follow me later. And my sister's like, what do you mean? It's like, I've got scholarships for everybody that's got my kind of skin color. And my sister's like, I guess that cuts me out. And yet she's, she doesn't have money. She's going to have to go and get a loan. She's never going to get access to scholarships. And yet she'll be one of the ones that has now been, I know about her 20 years, having gotten loan to do that job. And she's at a high level at whatever without even having, and this is what I was talking about earlier about struggling, right? Even though she's on the same level as everybody else that came to financially, she didn't get access to scholarships to help her get, get more equipment. She had to pay for everything, right? And yet she's on this economic level, she's on exactly the same as everybody there. And yet, because her skin color was lighter, she couldn't get access to that. It's like me. It's like I had to basically get I couldn't get access to Pacific Island grants because I spent all my life in New Zealand. Yet I'm a Pacific Islander. And then after that, when I faced that, I was like, yeah, you know what? It's not even worth bothering going for, And it's just it gets to a point where you just go, there's no way these doors will ever get open to you. You just might as well just work hard at yourself to do it. And so it's funny how I'm going to be activist influencer. It's like people really don't to be honest, people really don't care for activist influencers. Yeah, it'll get you the clout, online crowd, and so on. But really, when it comes down to it, it only goes so far, and it's kind of weird that we got into a stage where everybody wants to if they feel like they've been slighted, now they want to speak for everybody else rather than just going, you know what, I'm just going to move on and find another place to work somewhere I can I fit in, where they like me for who I am, or I'll work harder at on myself and be better at learn from this experience and go and be work harder, and hopefully wherever the new place I go to will help me get the money I want, the experience I want, and learn that. But I think it's gotten to a point where nobody wants to understand that whatever you put online is going to be used against you by your future employers, right? If they see you as a troublemaker, they'll stay as far away from you as possible. And the safest place to not go through that is to work for yourself, right? Create a thing for yourself, and where you are you're the boss, or you're working in a team where you have a more say in, and it's not always going to be easy. I'm like, hell, but surround yourself with talent. Surround yourself with people who are different, because doing that, it'll teach you that people are all the same, right? People are all the same, and they all have the same desires, and they have the same concerns about life. They want to have a better life. They want to have a better job. They want to provide for their family. They want to provide for themselves, and secure a future for themselves. And a lot of people, bosses. Here's the thing about employers, right? They don't have a lot of time, right? They do not. You think because they're bosses, now they they have all the time in the world to deal with stuff. They don't, because most of the time their brains are concentrating on, how do I make this business survive? How do I pay for the bills that are going to arrive next month, or whatever, right? I'm in the same position right now. I'm like, okay, I got to make sure I manage whatever I have right now to pay for whatever I got to pay for that artist or that person or that person. Oh yeah, the bills are going to arrive in about next month on this day. Let's make sure I scatter it. I don't have the time with dealing with like personal things with people, because like it's like, okay, you know, however, and to think of that, right? Say I'm just me working on comic books. Think of someone who's like in a position that they've got to manage like that thing, like a huge brand, like a beer company, right? And now you're out there. Not only are you blasting the, you know, someone who's got their name attached to it, but you're blasting, you know, your own brand company, like the one that's going to give you opportunities, and you're ruining the opportunities of others, right? It's something like we talked about earlier about Peter Dinklage, right, with Snow White. Like he's like, you know, we don't want to see, you know, we don't want to be misrepresented by having these 7 dwarfs and like, you know, little people in Snow White. And then like Hornswoggle, right? I can't remember his name because I just know him as Hornswoggle, right? Comes down and goes, hey, now you're stopping 7 of us getting jobs and becoming iconic characters who kids can look up to and treat us like normal people, right? And it's just such a shame, because like I just miss the you know, as a kid who grew up, right, watching Snow White, reading the Snow White books and stuff like that, you know, to finally see, you know, the perfect representation of little people that could be, you know, like that's what I mean. Like when you get to see people, you know, they say, oh, we got to have representation. That's true representation, right? At least everybody who's, I mean, I don't know any Western child who has not read Snow White, right, or knows who Snow White is, and then you get little people getting represented that way. You know, it was just I was looking forward to it, but then, you know, they wanted to, you know, re-represent somebody else as a Snow White character who was in Snow White. So one thing else, where are we? What else do I have on my list today? Oh yeah, so this is to do with the Pacific, right? And how China is having a huge influence in the South Pacific with money, right? Throwing the money around. Yet China right now, and you know, I mentioned this because of China, like the whole idea of the difference between democracy and communism, and how you see the facade falling off a country that's been telling the rest of the world how great they are, and yet their own people are calling them out because all the money that should be going to helping their own people is getting sent overseas. Now, this has got to do with Solomon Islands, right? This is our neighborhood, New Zealand, right? This is you know, and Pacific Island Group. You know, that's part of the whole South Pacific basis of this unified islander community. There's a name for that. I just can't remember what it's a Pacific Forum or something like that. They've got it like where all of them meet together once or twice a year, and they talk about what's going on in their communities, in their islands, what the needs are, and then they look at how they're going to get you know, funding or so on. However, over the last decade or so, there's been a huge influence from China with infrastructure, with money going in, and also you know, last year or so there was like a 20 mainland Chinese people who were involved in a drug ring, right? Fentanyl kind of thing, like meth and all that involved in Fiji. And so without going through the process of the, you know, the law in Fiji and the court system, they basically were just like cut onto the CCP, you know, overlords came over and just carted those guys, put them on a plane straight back to China. No, nothing was done, you know, to bring them to justice or anything like that, to find out there, you know, who was doing what and how it's being thing, because all that money, all that fentanyl was coming into New Zealand and Australia, right, to ruin, you know, being used as a backdrop. And so what is happening, you know, is that also happening in the Solomon Islands or in the other Pacific Islands like Tonga or Cook Islands and stuff? And this has been a big, huge thing for New Zealand right now and Australia going, well, are these island communities being used to, be factory level drug, class B, class A drugs manufacturing islands, where then they get carted up, put on ships and brought over to Australia and New Zealand, and then used on our people and spread across our people with that. And are we going to then become like friggin' America and have all these people on the homeless people addicted to the opiate thing, right? That's happened across the last 5 to 10 years over in America with the opiate crisis there. Are we going to be facing the same thing? So there's this little clip from a Chinese site, YouTube's channel, I think it's called China Observer. And it's about how now Solomon Islands got $20 million. I think that's US $20 million from China. And after they broke away from getting help from Taiwan, and it's like, because Taiwan is hated by China, mainland, especially CCP, because they want Taiwan to be part of China, and Taiwan's like, no, we love our democracy. And as I mentioned before, my first girlfriend, agent, was from Taiwan, so I have a love for that. And also my close friends were from Hong Kong, and that's why I kind of talk about this stuff, because I've had really great friends from both those nations, democratic nations, whereas now Hong Kong is basically part of China, and it's become like a dead zone for democracy and stuff, and it's kind of really sad. So let's watch this one about Solomon Islands.
The year, China has been hit by numerous natural disasters.
Let me just go back a bit here. Thanks, but all right.
This might be a sign of what's to come. Since the start of the year, China has been hit by numerous natural disasters, including ongoing floods affecting half the country, northern droughts, and snow and hail in Beijing in June. These disasters have failed to wake up the leaders or evoke empathy from the president. One netizen remarked, "Our great president cares more about people abroad." On July 12th, Xi Jinping met with Solomon Islands Prime Minister Jeremiah Manley, announcing a $20 million aid package. The Solomon Islands announced that China would provide its aid to support its government budget as Beijing aims to strengthen its strategic position in the region. After meeting Xi in Beijing, Manley praised China's transformative presence in one of the world's poorest countries. He also announced that China agreed to fund the expansion of the Solomon Islands' only international airport, a crucial infrastructure project. Since severing diplomatic ties with Taiwan in 2019, the Solomon Islands have become one of Beijing's most active supporters in the South Pacific. In return, China has built a large new stadium in the capital, Honiara, and constructed advanced medical facilities, mobile communication towers, and roads. Manley's office released a statement highlighting the growing relationship between the two countries since forming a bilateral partnership 5 years ago, with China assisting in implementing transformative projects. Traditionally, Australia and the US have provided similar budget support to the Solomon Islands. Former Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare supported Beijing and orchestrated China's rapid expansion in the island nation. He also signed a secret security agreement with China in 2022, raising concerns among Western allies. Although Manley expressed a willingness to engage with Canberra and Washington, he also emphasized a desire to deepen ties with China. Netizens reacted, calling it a typical case of money diplomacy, buying off officials in poor countries.
Yeah.
Others criticized the prioritization of foreign aid over domestic disaster relief. One commentator bluntly stated, "The whole country is flooded and people are suffering, yet you ignore them and spend taxpayers' money abroad. People are dying and you showed no compassion." On June 28th, Xi Jinping signed the Rural Collective Economic Organization Law. Citizen journalist Zhang Zhang criticized the law on X platform, asking, "Is this a step backward? Are we inviting mutual harm among the people again? The National People's Congress and its standing committee are utterly useless." Back in the days, under the collective economy in rural China, it is estimated that over 30 to 40 million farmers starved to death. Xi Jinping has not acknowledged this period in public statements. Critics argue that his policies reflect a continuation of practices from the Mao Zedong era, which they claim led to significant loss of life. In preparation for this so-called internal war, Xi Jinping has been laying the groundwork for some time. At a recent military political work conference in Yan'an, besides the official statements published by state media, attendees reported that he also gave an impromptu speech. This speech has circulated through various channels, corroborated by multiple independent sources, and it seems to be a prescient revelation. Its content aligns closely with Xi's actual political maneuvers. In the speech, he admonished the entire CCP. We are in Yan'an today for a military meeting, preparing for internal war. You must realize that we are facing severe economic and political crisis, an internal war. The war has already begun. If we do not respond with war, our party and government will go bankrupt. You've seen the establishment of police tax combat centers nationwide. This is a wartime state, comrades. We will not overcome this crisis if we do not use combat to collect taxes. Just like the Kuomintang blockade, Yan'an back then. Now the US and Western economies are blockading us. We are fighting on two fronts, just like before. Now the police and tax authorities are cooperating to trace back 30 years and reclaim the surplus value from the wealthy. Wasn't agreed that the rich would help the poor? Now we have to confiscate their wealth through combat forcefully. If we don't, how can we survive this crisis? If the police tax collaboration fails to resolve the economic dilemma, we must implement a wartime economy. If necessary, the military must step in. If economic discontent builds up to a critical mass, with mass bankruptcies of individuals, banks, and enterprises, a storm will arise that could threaten our state power. Our country and our party cannot go bankrupt. Although the authenticity of the leaked internal speech attributed to Xi Jinping cannot be verified, it appears to reflect elements of his governance strategy. The speech suggests a focus on addressing internal challenges through stringent measures, indicates a strategy that includes using forceful means to collect tax and reclaim citizens' property. Additionally, the concept of a wartime economy aligns with economic, political, and military measures Xi has implemented in recent years. Observers suggest that if an economic crisis escalates, it could lead to a significant social unrest and potential violence. The speech acknowledges that during Mao's era, everything could be covered up. All crimes were hidden. The CCP's propaganda is filled with so much misleading information, and even the unprecedented tragedy of millions starving to death was sealed off completely, so much so that young people today still can't believe it, attributing it to natural disasters.
So they're talking about like a war, and I was thinking of this. My brain just went straight to 1984, right? That whole perpetual war. We were constantly at war, and so China, and this is something like balancing this out. In the past 20 odd years, so has America has been a perpetual war in the Middle East, South America, and so on. And this is why I think with Trump stance on hey, we need our guys back home. We shouldn't be involved in all these other people's wars and stuff, unless we really, really have to, and not become a war economy. So, having said that, 1984, right, had this this part of that, and I think it's been 20 years or maybe longer since I watched the movie and read the book as well, right? But my brain just went straight back to this. And so this is like who controls the past controls the future, right? From that's right. There's obviously speaking all that. Well,
this is our land, a land of peace and of plenty, a land of harmony and hope. This is our land, Oceania. These are our people, the workers, the strivers, the builders. These are our people, the builders of our world, struggling fighting, bleeding, dying. On the streets of our cities and on the far-flung battlefields. Fighting against the mutilation of our hopes and dreams. Who are they? They are the dark armies. The dark, murdering armies of Eurasia. In the barren deserts of Africa and India, on the oceans of Australasia, courage, strength, and youth are sacrificed. Sacrificed to barbarians whose only honor is atrocity. But even as we grasp at victory, there is a cancer, an evil tumor, growing, spreading in our midst. Shout! Shout! Shout out his name!
Nothing about the gods is true. Even the Lord itself is true. Partly wants you to believe the end of the world, so as to turn your emotions away from their death.
Crazy, right? It's like cult-like behavior, but like it's like a country continuously, like if you haven't seen 1984, it's one of the greatest what if situations that could happen, and it's being held up as like as a warning to, you know, against letting governments have ultimate power or raising people to ultimate power. It's kind of like a mix. It's kind of like a view on, on fascism and communism, and how, you know, I guess, yeah, how like leaders can like rise to power by using fear, or using like those of they will come in for us, or you don't get behind us, and so on. And at the moment, China's basically been keeping their people under that sort of fear, like the Americans are the devil, the Japanese will come and eat you, like they did, in the future, in the past, how they did all this, which nobody's hiding that from that. They were under a godlike situation of their own, Japan, right? Like the emperor was the voice of God, and whatever the emperor said, therefore you did. And so, you had the whole, after that, there was a whole lot of rules put in place, and now there's been so many amazing changes there. And with friggin' with Italy, with fascism there, lots of changes there. And also lots of changes on Germany, right? Because Germany went under that whole they are the bad people and we are the, we should protect ourselves by voting for this person and so on. And so they understand. Like, the one thing that like is very I think is very important for anybody is to learn from your history, right? Is to know what came before, to understand, and not only just your own history, but to know other people's history as well. Because the more educated you are, the more nuanced you become about any given situation or any given area of any issue that rise up, right? One thing that really I think it's kind of sad is watching over the last 4 years around the world where the past has been like treated as like some sort of horrible thing, where everybody thinks that the best way to go forward is by destroying the past. Yet I feel like that all that's happening is like actually not going forward, it's going backwards. Like this, like I'm gonna put myself small because this is worth seeing. This is Liberty Bell in America. Nathaniel, if you're watching, you probably know more about this than I do. Not really that smart when it comes to stuff like America. Yeah, there's only certain things I'm aware of, places and names, but some places I'm not. But this is like, look at this. All right, this is terrorist people, of terrorist supporters doing this on American soil, and yet what happened in this whole thing about 9/11 and like how terrorists were bad and all this, and now you're like, okay, supporting a terrorist group, and it's like, okay. So yeah, this is like a 16-second video, right? So I'm going to go to the start, and there's the Liberty Bell. Look at the Liberty Bell. Look, right? This is the Liberty Bell. This is on American soil. This is despicable, far as I'm concerned. And I'm here on the other side of the world as a Kiwi, from Fiji, right, in New Zealand. They're looking at this going, this is disgusting. This is the Liberty Bell, a monument in America, right? Look at this. It's friggin' disgusting. These people should not even have been allowed to be near that. I know it's a public place, and it's like, this is disgusting, man. Like, this is like, how could you? I mean, how can you like, can you do that to a monument that represents the past, that represents, your country's history, and people who have long passed, who left this as a legacy, as a hope for the future, and then to destroy that in this way, right? That's why I find this whole movement, or whatever you want to call it, despicable in its purest essence, because anything like this where you're like destroying art, you're destroying other people's gift to the nation, statues, what have you, I just find it despicable, because it's, you're destroying the hard work of others, right? And like this, anarchy, right? It's like the symbol of anarchy, right? Is right there, the A, circle A. I'm a punk from, for my teen years, right? And I still hold on to punk attitude, but even as a punk, I don't think, this is right. I mean, I know it's not right to do this, right? And it's just destroying art, it's destroying monuments. It's like the same thing that the guy, the Chinese guy went, so-called influencer, went and pissed on a Japanese monument, right? And it was like, you're basically crapping on, you can talk about whatever you want about your country, how you don't feel good about this, I don't get that, but to destroy and degrade and demean something that you had no part in building is the most utter, I just don't have enough words, or don't have the right words for it, apart from despicable. It's a despicable act. And I don't know why these people are even allowed to get there. And okay, you can say, well, protesting is right. This is when protesting goes too far, right? Where you actually are supporting a terrorist group in your own country, which whatever you believe about it or whatever, but you yourself would never go to that country or to live in, but you want to promote the way of that country, right? And I think this is the whole, this whole Messiah complex thing. Oh, they're the, we're in the wrong, they're on the right, they're the evil, they're the red. It's like, I don't know, whatever you feel, you can voice it, but why go and degrade and debase something that you had nothing, or go create your own artwork and debase that, right? Go create your own monuments and debase it as a protest. Why do it to something that, like, millions of people each year would go to see and do that too? But anyway, I just saw that this morning come across on my, on my Twitter feed, and I was like, just before going live, right? I was like, it's just sad, man. Like, I think it's gross to do that. Same thing with, like, throwing, with the painting on the, Stonehenge. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about that, and even that, like, why would you go and throw paint or spray paint Stonehenge? Why would you throw, or paint on Mona Lisa or something like great artworks? These people don't have any creative bone in their bodies. They just scream and yell to the clouds. And if they're like little children, perpetual children, and if they're not, if they don't get their way, they destroy. And that's what we've seen over the last, 4 years. It's basically, okay, we don't get our way, so we'll riot. Well, okay, why don't you just go destroy your own homes, right? Your own areas, like. But oh no, we have too much money. We don't want to, we have all the free time in the world, so let's go destroy other people's properties. So I find that really disgusting. I think it's just sad. I'm all for protesting, but I think destroying art and stuff like that is just, not cool. So one of the things, like, I want to talk, finishing off here, right? So I think it's this one here, had to do with this whole story behind gaming, right? As I've mentioned before, I'm not a huge gamer. I have consoles. I follow gaming news and stuff. The only thing I play right now when it comes to gaming is visual novels, like pick apart type visual, 3D game action, sequences. So if you know what a visual novel is, it's basically like a pick apart book, as a game, right? As a video game. So recently, this is like to do with the Black Samurai situation with Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed. And so there's this whole thing about how this dude tried to change history of Japan, right? By saying this was this Black Samurai and there was all this, like, and all these people. And then suddenly, you had a whole lot of people around the world, especially the Black community, they just don't run to everything. There's like, it's going to prop them up. Seems to be like they created everything, right? There's a video I'm going to play soon about this lady who says that, right? Oh, we create automobiles, we create toilets and all this. It's like, okay, but we know it's not true. But so this is a 10-minute video, and I'm going to go through and we're going to watch this. But I'm also going to, like, while we're doing this one, I am going to show you what I'm, I've got my circle, right? I've got my little hollow thing, and I've got it all set up here. Actually, let me put it bigger so you can see. So I've got my hollow set up, right? Ball, and it's nothing in there, it's hollow, but it's thick enough for me to carve out, what I'm going to do with this. So this is what I call my new neo tribal art style. Now I was gonna, I forgot to tell you guys, I'm going to show you some older, before we go to this one, right? Because kind of background to the artwork, which I was supposed to show you before, but I forgot. So this is, this is one of my pieces from about 30 years ago. Yeah. So I put it, let me see, when did I put this up online? Yeah, so 1996, right? So 28 years ago, maybe? Am I wrong on that? What? I have no idea. I can't remember most dates and shit. All I know is I did that in 96, right? And it's about a meter tall. Maybe it's at my parents' home. It's one of my, probably my only original 30-year-old work that I have, that thankfully I gave to my parents, and I didn't cut around all over the world, always breaking. But it's about, let me just bring that off there so you can see my thing. So it's about 50, let me see, 20, 30 centimeters wide. Diameter, always at, I don't know what they call that. Always get that, sort of, I forget, I have to look it up. So radius, diameter, it's radius, isn't it? Round. So it's about 30 and opens up kind of like this slightly at the top, but it is about meter tall, and at the base it's about 20 centimeters, or maybe about 25 centimeters, and it's deep vase. So now I'll show you it so you get an idea of how big that is, right? You've got an idea of how big that is. So this this at the bottom here is what they call sculpture clay. So it's rough, and as you can see here, it's some pieces are have chipped off over this time. And this, I took this maybe about 15 years ago, the photo of this, because I realized from my parents' place, I realized I didn't have it. And then you've got this soft clay, which it's this one here, across here, and then this is the rough and the soft clay here as well, over the top of it. So, and then it's cutting, kind of a relief around it as a tree, like a dead tree, as you can see. So what happened here was, it was supposed to be nice and rounded. It started started cracking, and so I, because I don't want the thing to start cracking altogether, because it was getting dry and dry and dry, what I did was I actually went across and carved that out like that. And I kind of still didn't like that I did it, but, and like we talked about wood firing before, basically that's the same thing, right? Wood firing. So it's no glaze, nothing on there, just shoved into the kiln, the large wood kiln, fired kiln, which you're just using wood as the fuel. And then the oils, the sap, whatever whatever's coming out of that is what creates this sort of this glossiness, the sheen, the black thing there on that. And so, yeah, so it's only one side only had this, but the branches kind of went around it, and it's at my parents' home now. And I'm just so glad my parents use this as a kind of mom's got this little bowl of glass bits on top of it, and it's just it's right in front of the door. But I'm just so glad they have it, because I have no room for it. I haven't had room for it for years. Oh, actually I did when I had my own house, but then by that time I was I don't think we should cart it anywhere, because the more you cart it, the more the cracks will start appearing on the relief. The solid part's fine, it's just the relief on there started cracking off. But yeah, so that's that piece. So let me see. This is one I did. Yeah, this is what I talk about, how this, right? So this was a piece I was doing. I was going to do this one, then I realized it was way big, and so I ended up with doing this one instead. As a kind of just using the glaze as the pattern. So I went and did that. So you can see they're putting that on top and then going black around it, and then the red and black. And then you can see this is the final piece. And I realized after it was fired how you got to be really careful how you know that you don't let the runs go off. Like it's fine here, right? But the heat of the glaze, right? You can see this is just layered and layered glaze, which gives it this little thing here. But the problem there is, you know, I hadn't done this like about 20 years later when I'm doing this, 2019. So like I hadn't done this since like 96, maybe 15, close to 20 years, I don't know. And so, you know, it kind of didn't come out the way I wanted it because it's got all this runoff glaze here, right? So I realized that that's, oops, let's go back to, there we go. So this is what this was, right? Before it got the glaze, as you can see, right? I mean, got fired. And let me go back to the other one. Here we go. So after that, I went and did this one. So kind of less, so it's got the, you know, got the black and so on. But still, again, the red hasn't come right. So I'm still learning. And so now I figured out, like, you know, I got to make sure, you know, when we go to do this sort of stuff, that that the glaze has to be right. So I've decided that I'm just going to stay away from trying to be too great with, you know, being really finicky with the glazes and painting them on. So what I'm going to do is just do raku because I enjoy raku, or I'm going to try to do minimalist areas. So I might go like, you know, to use black on the side and use white on the side, or maybe use red and so on, like, you know, separate the colors. So that, you know, by the time I actually end up doing it, it actually ends up like looking like a decent piece. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm hoping, you know, like with all the pieces and the bigger pieces I'm doing, like the bigger ones are like rugby ball size or American football size, I should say, because rugby balls are really like slightly bigger than, you know, American footballs. Would look. I got to do. I think I'll do. I've done 4, so I got to do 8 more of those, and then do a whole lot of these, maybe about 24 of these little ones, right? So because the bigger things are, the harder to cut around and the more costly it gets. But you know, but if you know, if whoever's going to the exhibition likes my work, and then like, and if they're, even if like people from overseas, something like this is cheaper to freight over and is more safer, because you could just shove like, you know, a whole friggin' ball of like, what is it called, bubble wrap around it, right, and foam, whatever, and case it in foam, and so, and then you box it and then it can be thrown around, like, you know, usually people throw, you know, you've seen like enough videos of post being thrown around, packages being thrown around. So you knew something like this would be safer to be able to cut off, or, and then also the cost won't be that much as well. You can say, hey, look, this is going to be treated with care, breakable glass, whatever, and you know, so by the time, you know, it's easier financially, it's cost effective being a smaller one than having something that's like about this big, you know, trying to be, and like, which is like on its own, it's like about 2 kgs heavy, whereas this is like about 200-300 grams, right? And then so you got something like this, and you can see here like the levels of like, you know, the maze style that I do the work at, you know. Let me just bring that up so you can see the intricacies of the patterns I would be working with. So you can see here, right, the way I work on, this is my, what I call, as I mentioned, is what I call my neo-tribal, right, neo-tribal art style. So you get the hollow, it's always hollow because I'll, you know, makes it lighter, but also it's, it won't crack if it's hollow, because sometimes if it's solid pieces, the heat goes through it and can affect it, because of different temperatures in the clay and the kiln, and so it'll end up being cracked. So as you can see here, right, there's very, you know, with this one alone, sorry, that's hold on, let me get my little pointer. So you can see, hold on, there we go. So you can see there's 3 layers just there, right? This little one here. There's like a layer here. Then you got the next layer there. And then below that, you've got this little layer there. And so, yeah. And then, you know, something like that even. As you can see, the like layers, when you see it like that, it's easier to see. So that's something that I've been trying to get this done and aim towards next year, because I gave myself 5 years from 2020 to 25 to get this done. And I only got one of these and 4 of the big pieces done. So now I've got to make sure I got 8 big pieces done in the next 12 months, and also maybe 24 of these done, right? So that I can have 22 more, because it's like this with 23rd, or the second one, and then be able to finally go and find the exhibition, gallery, and say, this is where I want to have my exhibition. What's it going to cost, and how long, promotion wise, how we do it and everything. So, and then also the fact I got to put it in the kiln, I got to fire it, get the raku, get the glazes, and so on. And like I said, for me with ceramics, it's one of the oldest forms of foodware or art, because there's wood, and then there is like ceramics, and then there comes the metal, right? And so if you go to Fiji, you'll find like little broken pieces of the lapita. It's called lapita pottery, where and I've been to the museum in Fiji a couple of times to look at all these remaining found pieces from these for the early indigenous Fijian history, and looking at their way they used to work it and how they used to like form their pieces, because they don't have the wheels, right? So they had to do it all by hand, like I'm doing, to form the cups, form the bowls to cook in, and so on, and to serve for food. And so for me, it's like one of the most natural, earliest forms of art is working with clay. You got cave paintings and all that, but and carvings with wood. But I love clay because the fact that you can reuse, and any offcut, you can just like melt, scrape up together and then chuck it back into a bowl, and it's very minimal waste. So now let's go and have a look at, while I carry on with this and carve this up, let's go and look at this video on like the game, right? And about this guy who's tried to rewrite Japanese history, from being from America, who's in his like 30s or something, trying to rewrite his history. This guy, what was his name? I think it's Thomas somebody. I think we'll find out soon. This is from Minimal Effort Gaming.
Already talked this to death last night on my kind of emergency last minute live stream we did, but there is a very unique bond I think that the US and Japan now has, especially after the events this weekend, given the fact that 2 years ago Japan lost their former prime minister, longest prime minister they ever had, Shinzo Abe, to a lone lunatic who just decided to take him out. And we were really close to that this weekend as well. You don't have to like Trump to understand the massive implications this has for our country as a nation, as a people. Just absolutely shocked pretty much everybody, whether you celebrated it or you were, horrified by it. There was a lot of visceral reactions to it. And so, of course, the Japanese people, I put this post out there talking about Shinzo Abe, and the Japanese have been very humble and very thankful and appreciative that Trump survived, and very, grateful for people mourning the loss of Shinzo Abe in such a manner. So I think it's a very good time for people to come together and bond over some, common threads that we have as humans. Whether or not we all feel the same about individual people is a whole nother story that we're not going to get into. But this connection between the West and Japan has a lot of different implications when it comes to culture and politics and entertainment and video games. And we've talked a lot about Assassin's Creed Shadows and the attempt by Westerners to try to essentially colonize the history of Japan, mainly with this character Yasuke, who it's been basically exposed to this point that the entire story was made up. The fact is, the only thing we know is that the character, the person that was named Yasuke by Nobunaga, he was real. Whoever he was, where he came from, what his significance was, is between slim and none when it comes to his actual relevance to the people of Japan and their heritage. And so, of course, we have had a lot of coverage of this. I talked a lot about the fact that Assassin's Creed Shadows and Ubisoft decided that they were going to use a fake sword from One Piece to try to pass off as the actual weapon of Yusuke for an expo they were doing in Paris. And then, of course, you have here where an actual Japanese politician, Satoshi Hamada, came out saying, we need to bring this before the Japanese diet. We need to figure out what is going on, why this is being, passed off as some sort of historically based character, why they're representing Japanese people in such a negative light, why they're not respecting our culture and our history. And, this has caused a lot of backlash all across the world, not just from Westerners, but from Japan itself. I mean, Japan is a country very proud of its history and its culture. And so these people are unrelenting when it comes to pushing back against this nonsense and this revisionist history that's being, pushed on their society. Well, now the story gets even crazier because we've talked about this before, and I'll play a little audio clip just to refresh your memory of this Wikipedia entry, this video about Wikipedia entries that were used to create Thomas Lockley's book, which is where the Yasuke character really began to take relevance. So we'll play a little bit of this audio here.
A lot of the stuff you see on Twitter, YouTube, and online articles actually comes from Wikipedia. But a lot of that information was wrong. It all goes back to October 22, 2012. Someone added a sentence to Wikipedia that said, when Nobunaga was convinced that this person really had dark skin, he valued him highly, named him Yasuke, and kept him close. This sentence wasn't true and caused a lot of confusion. Then on June 14, 2015, someone changed the Wikipedia article again. It now said he was officially made a Bushido warrior and kept close. This change made people think that Yasuke had become a samurai, and that's how the legend of Yasuke, the Black Samurai, was born. The next day, on June 15, another line was added to the Wikipedia article. It said, Nobunaga liked Yasuke so much that he intended to make him a lord in the future. In just one day, Yasuke had been promoted to a future lord, but this was completely false. So from 2012 to 2024...
All right, I think that's enough of the video. Sorry for that alert that popped up, guys. I'm using Streamlabs to record my videos, so when a new subscriber comes in, that just happens sometimes. So go back and watch the whole video from this guy, Nikaido. You'll have to watch it with subtitles. I don't believe his original video is translated, but the person that did the interpreting here very much has it pretty close to the translation as far as what the subtitles, the closed caption said. So again, Wikipedia entries that were deceptively edited to fit a narrative that were then used by Thomas Lockley in his book were essentially created to craft this narrative, this story around this person, Yasuke, who this entire genre of fan fiction has just come escalating out of. It's just been like, oh my God, Yasuke, the Black Samurai. And it's fine. If you want to have a character like a Yasuke and make an anime about him, go for it. As long as you accept the fact that this has nothing to do with the actual history of Japan or this person. So now we're seeing Thomas Lockley on the run. The guy that wrote the book that a lot of this has come from, he has deleted his Facebook page. And Grum says the Japanese have been hammering the fact checks on Thomas Lockley, the historian widely cited by other papers, book, and official sources for the proof that Yasuke was a samurai. They say he is a fraud and have been finding out he's been editing Wikipedia under an alias Totori Tom to promote his books and papers. And this is something that various people have verified. So here you see it, this guy, Katsunori Yanagi, says it was discovered that Thomas Lockley, associate professor of law at Nihon University, fabricated a story on Wikipedia that Yasuke was a samurai. Of course, there's a video here. Unfortunately, there's not a link to it, but we can probably find that later on. And then you can see this one here, content not available. Tom Totori related. This is on the Assassin's Creed Shadow Notes. I believe it's got to be from Wikipedia. So it says, July 6th, 2012, editing of Yasuke by the account Totori Tom begins. Yasuke was not edited until September 11th, 2015. September 12th, 2015, the reference was changed to a paper by Thomas Lockley published in 2016. This was revised many times on this day. Main revisions, revision 1 comparison, 2 comparison, 3 comparison. February 2016, Thomas Lockley has published a paper on Yasuke, who served Oda Nobunaga, entitled The Story of Yasuke, Nobunaga's African Retainer, in the 91st volume of the Sakura Bunranso. Hopefully I pronounced that somewhat correctly. January 25th, 2017, Nobunaga and Yasuke, the Black Samurai who survived the Hanaji Temple, is now on sale. February 3rd, 2017, the reference was changed by Totori Tom from their article published in the Sakura I'm messing that up so bad, to Nobunaga and Yusuke, the Black Samurai who survived the Hanaji Temple. October 31st, 2018, Totori Tom added a link to Thomas Lockley's page. November 8th, 2018, Thomas Lockley's page was deleted from Wikipedia as it was deemed unremarkable. Totori Tom also participated in the discussion at the time. January 25th, 2019, Totori Tom introduces the release of the book African Samurai, The True Story of Yusuke, a legendary black warrior in feudal Japan, which is essential to telling the Yusuke legend to this day. So basically what you have here is you have Thomas Lockley, who was using his influence, his ability to edit things on Wikipedia to try to promote the sale of his book, which he had created a false narrative with off of, again, heavily edited Wikipedia entries. And this has been sold as essentially the unknown history, or basically filling in the blanks of this Yusuke character for a decade now, it seems like, almost. Grum says, historian Thomas Lockley, that was cited by so many official sources on Yusuke, makes a wild claim that blames the Japanese for slavery in his book, and the Japanese are furious. Not even kidding. So you get into this here. The translation here from this account here on Twitter says, in Thomas Lockley's book, the Jesuits did not enslave black people. After Nobunaga appointed the black man Yusuke, enslaving black people became popular in Japan. Read that back a second, guys. After Nobunaga appointed the black man Yusuke, enslaving black people became popular in Japan. But this is bad. Seriously, it's really bad. Aren't they just blaming black people for the culture in which white people enslave black people? No, this is seriously crazy. What's worse is that things are written in the English version that aren't written in the Japanese version. This is pretty bad, isn't it? In the comment section of the video about the Assassin's Creed Shadows controversy, there were several people overseas who said that the Japanese people have been the most racist towards black people in history, and I suspect that this book is the cause of it. So the Japanese are starting to wake up to the way that they are perceived by a lot of the Western world, at least in the stereotypical sense, where, again, unfortunately, we've seen examples where, like, Disney tried to edit out people that were darker skinned in movie posters when they released a movie in China. I don't know about this being a thing in Japan. I reckon it could be. But the reality is, I do not believe that this is a necessarily entirely societally based prejudice that Japanese people alone share. So the idea that you're trying to pass off black people as adopting slavery after Yusuke got there, I mean, this is incredibly heinous shit. Like, if there's any validity to this, I'm shocked at how this guy actually was able to influence so much of the culture and the narrative around the Yusuke character up to this point and get away with it just so he could sell more copies of his book.
That's what I was going to say.
But anyways, guys, I'm going to leave it right there. A lot to unpack in this one. Let me know what you think about all this. I'll be live streaming tonight. Hope to see you guys there, and I will talk to you later.
That's crazy, right? Like,
all right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much.
That's crazy, right? Like, just to promote a book, a person rewrites the history of another culture. How the hell, like, and here's the problem, like, with AI right now, right? As well, like, AI can be used to rewrite our histories now because people are putting up fake things. Like, I mean, this one here was used like the last 12 months, like, slavery and black people were in Japan and this other thing and forever and stuff, all because there was one person who happened to arrive there, probably from a pirate ship, right, or got left behind or whatever, and now he's like this huge friggin' history around him created out of fictional books that's now turned into truth somehow. And like, to the victor goes the spoils, right? History is written by the winners. Like, that's what you learn. One of the things talking about Wikipedia, 20 years ago, right, when I was doing my film degree, we got told do not use Wikipedia as reference because that shit is getting rewritten all the time, and not everybody's going to be writing the truth on there. Do not use that. Go get the books, get the historical facts and stuff like about what you need the knowledge for. So if you're going to write something, if you're going to research something, do not use Wikipedia. you know, because it's a lot of people just use it to make up shit. And, you know, as we found right here, this guy, Thomas, whatever, basically to sell his his fiction book, he non-fictionalized a fictional character, you know, a real character existed, but a fictional a real history behind a fictional character. It's like, you know, I mean, as a writer, I'm kind of thinking like, that took some balls, right, to be able to go, hey, you know what, this character, there's a person from history who we don't know much about, except that he was Nuanaga's, you know, attendant or whatever. He's just there because of Nuanaga, like weird stuff, right? He just like strange things. You know, he's like one of the guys who collects, like, I mean, in the sense, like when I was listening to about this, I was thinking it's probably like a guy who like has like Barnum's circus thing, you know, like a circus of oddities, you know, and that's a sort of person. It's like if somebody's got like a, you know, hasn't got an arm from birth, he's going to have that person close to him because he's just, some people have that kink, right? So, yeah, I mean, the balls to like rewrite another culture's history. It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of sickening, to be honest. Like, and that's why I say, like, AI is right now being used to like, you know, rewrite a lot of stuff and fake a lot of stuff. And like, even like I mentioned last time, my friend goes to me like, hey, you know, that image is not real. I'm like, oh shit, you know, I got to go across and look at AI, you know, art detection to make sure that's not like, you know, these things are not created by art, I mean by AI anymore, because otherwise I'm sharing stuff I despise. The other thing is like, you know, it's easy to use AI now to fake stuff, right? Like vocals and stuff. You can have like use, I think I saw a Joe Rogan voice used to promote something that I don't even know if Joe Rogan did give his voice to, right? The other thing was like, talking about that, right? So recently, like I'm talking about like wrestling rambles and stuff like that, there was like, I think it was Jericho. Jericho's voice, Jericho, was it Jericho? Yeah, so he apologized just for, I think I did a voiceover or something like for something, and he from Cameo, and he didn't even know. And I think it was wrestling rambles. Let me just, I'm trying to figure out if it was Jericho or not. But let me just find it. It was just last week, I think it was. Like I think he said like he couldn't. He it had to do with the same thing, right? Like voiceover. So find the right video for it. I wasn't thinking about talking about that, but like, you know, since we're on the topic, it'll be good to have a look at that and how he had to, you know, sort that out, because he didn't know what he was in for, and they used, you know, use his voice, and I think it was this one. Where is it? I can't seem to find it. Hold on, let me see if I can find it on here. Sorry, I'm looking at this. We're almost to 3 hours, and I haven't even got to, you know, because of all the talking and stuff, I haven't even got to the actual forming of this. But it's all right. Sci-fi, Duckwood, Kurt Angle, Forster. Oh, it's Kurt Angle. Yeah, here we go. Is it Kurt Angle? Oh, apologies. Yeah, crypto scam. Sorry, maybe it wasn't for yeah.
In April of 2022, the Quebec Project posted a clip of Kurt Angle promoting their crypto that has seemingly turned out to be a scam. Here's the original clip.
Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and I'm here to talk about Quebec Crypto Project. It's a future of blockchain, crypto, metaverse with your experience. Review on Quebec Crypto's vision, partnerships, growth, and future. And congratulations on 7,000 plus Quebec token holders. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
Now, Kurt Angle is taken to social media after recently being notified about the group as he wrote, "Hey everyone, I want to make it known I am not involved in any Bitcoin currency. A few overseas companies purchased a Cameo and had me read something, and I'm upset they tricked some of you, even me. From here on out, I am going to be more cautious about who purchases my Cameo, so this won't happen again."
Yeah, so like technology, right? That was kind of what I'm thinking about here, is how technology, AI, and voiceover, purchasing voiceovers, and being used to promote something that you don't know. That's what I'm saying about research, making sure that you're researching stuff. And one of the things that crypto seems to be the biggest thing right now for like trying to get people involved in scams. Like I was watching an entire a video about CoffeeZilla, and this guy was saying all the people that CoffeeZilla is basically exposed with the scams and stuff, and crypto seems to be one of the biggest ones. People have lost millions. Like some guy in Aussie lost $500,000 to a crypto scam, right? And there was a bank, they had like a crypto bank or something like that, and it's like I don't understand. I know people are always trying to figure out a way to get rich fast, right? But why would you put all your savings into something that's new? And there's a whole idea Bitcoins. If everybody got on the ground floor, they'd be like rich now and whatever. And so there is that whole idea of getting on the ground floor, right? But I find it if it sounds too good to be true, that's always been a rule, right? If it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not true. But I find it sad that people are getting duped into these things because of influencers, right? People who have enough money already, but it's the poor people that they target with these things, or the working class who are just trying to, get a bit more bang for their buck. But at the end of the day, be very careful, right? Be very careful with what you have. I mean, your money, your savings, it's, you got to treat it like it's you're giving blood, right? It's like you don't know who's going to exploit you for your, to scam your funds out of you, your savings. Some guy said we're going to get married, and I put this money in there, and I was going to take it out to go get married. The money's gone, right? We can't get access to it like that. That's Friedman dude, right? Who's 120 something years in jail because he scammed billions out of people, and because politicians and freaking celebrities were involved in it, other people put their money in it as well, thinking, okay, well, this is a big deal, because these people get involved in it. It seems like it's safe, and next thing you know, they all got taken for a ride because this guy was putting money into something else that they had invested that was never supposed to go into something else, right? So yeah, with that, whatever whatever your funds you have, be careful with the way you spend it. What what things to get into, research the hell out of it, and even then, right? Traditional banking has a safe thing, right? And so the governments are going to keep an eye on that. It's do research, right? That's all I can say about these things, right? Anything you're putting your money into, do research. I mean, I remember I got I had COVID used against me to get some money out of me, I feel like I got scammed there, right? And so I'm very cautious now what I do with my money and where it goes and how it's spent, because, you know, I don't have that much. And so I don't want to make sure, I mean, I don't have that much, so I want to make sure that what little I have is protected, and that, you know, it's spent on things that's important to me, like making sure that I get what I believe in, and what I, you know, like my comics. I believe in my comics, so in my art, and I believe in my writing. So I want to spend my money in that, you know, and use it to promote that, use it to create it, you know, and get, you know, try to pay for the work, you know, get the work paid for and work on that, get behind my, you know, projects. And so I think a lot of times, you know, there's always someone out there trying to take from you, right? And if you keep that in mind, take from your hard work, right? If you keep that in mind, you know, you will, you know, you'll do well. You know, like I said, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And you know, the crypto scam's like huge, and I think the new scam is the comic book scam, which is kind of sad, right? I mean, of saying you're going to create something and using social media to promote it, and then never delivering on it, or waiting years and years to deliver on it. It's quite sad. Whereas someone like me, who's like, okay, I've got my product ready to go, man, get behind me, you know, and so I can get this out. And yet nobody's going to back that, because they're afraid as well. Like, because every time somebody gets cheated, they're afraid to spend money on something similar. And I can understand that. I'm the same. Like, you become very cautious. But you know, but I hope you guys will, like, you know, you guys will support our comics, because we do believe in it, that we are working in it. There's human beings involved in creating these damn things, you know, and I'm working hard to make sure that, you know, that that what we, you know, what we're putting out is value for money, and that, you know, that, let me just log in here and I'll show you what we are up to, you know. And so, you know, we want to bring you great comics. We want to bring you, you know, stuff that we believe in, you know, you know, put together projects, put together art. Let me get the preview, and hopefully you guys will, you know, will support us, because at the end of the day, this is, you know, we have to redo the project to a smaller level, so that we can, you know, get backing and get support. So, you know, in finishing here, right? I'd love it if you guys would, like, go check out our homepage on Kickstarter. This is Plan Gen Z. Please go and check it out, and follow. Right, you can just click. There's on the campaign page. I mean, upcoming on the homepage. There's like a follow project or follow the studio, whatever. Please do that. I'd really wish. Yeah, I really hope you guys will do that, because then you'll be notified when we put our projects up, and we release them or launch them, that you'll be aware that these coming up. Now, this is a relaunch of a project in a smaller capacity, so that, like, you know, it's, I mean, it's more accessible, right? Because the price isn't too high. Try to get all these other covers done. So we're only going to put out a couple, you know, couple covers, you know, show you all the different covers. We'll get the, you know, ABC with the, and like the language, Portuguese, Spanish, and English covers. And then we got a couple other 2 covers here. And then we've got the foil covers. And then we've got the wraparound. That's it. And we're sorting out the funding and making sure that we're able to do this, put this together. I mean, you know, because I want to be able to release this, and not only that, we're going to be able to release it both in digital for all 3, like Spanish and Portuguese and English in digital. Last time I just had it done for English. Now you get all 3 languages. Almost finished the Portuguese. I think I'm on the last page. I think it's the credit page, which is, you know, where I'm like doing that. I mean, translating that, and then after that, this will be ready to go. Hoping to get it out by next month, right, August. And we're going to run it like a 60-day campaign, because so that can run while I'm working on the next campaign, because we got another one called Templeton that's will be coming up later, around about December sometime, once this one's over, right? So hopefully, you guys will be able to support us with this. I really, I really want to get this project out there, because I believe in this project, because we've got another, it's an ongoing series, but each issue has 2 short stories in it. By short, I mean like 12 to 16 pages per story, kind of condensed down from like 22 pages to 16 or 12 pages. Robot Nation is a sci-fi horror comic book, interactions between humans and robots on Earth and in space. So there are the 2 stories there. So you can have, you got this one here on Earth, which is Robot Nation, which we're going to be like, getting other people to write stories for and coming up with comic books, art for and everything. And then there's the other one, which is called The Trouble with Bobo, and that's in that's in space. So the artist on this is Francisco Conti, amazing artist from Italy, and then also with the colorist on this is Edwin Badillo. He's from America, and so just some beautiful work here from our Spanish translator. This is Luis. His art there. He's a manga artist. And then you've got the Portuguese language version, and this is of course Edwin's art with his friend Manuel Soto, and of course this is our other artist who's working on our comic book series, Zoolander, Fantastical Roma, the first arc, and that's Joachim from Sweden. And then, of course, we've got G-Spot here, and he's from America, and this beautiful, great, he offered up these amazing covers for us. And like this one here, this is G-Spot colored this, but this is James Hill, one of our awesome, cover artists, and he's working on an upcoming comic book called Templeton, which we're going to be releasing soon, #1 off. And of course, the G-Spot foil, and then the Edwin wraparound chrome cover. That's all we releasing, and we might do a couple posters or something, but that's about it. Hopefully, the price here for this, that we're looking at raising, this is not the final, but that we're looking to raising will be a better option for us going forth. So hopefully you guys will back this project, which we'll be releasing next month. Relaunching it, it's kind of hard to keep reading it, but yeah. It's 44 pages, right? So double the size of a normal comic book. So please support it, and please spread the news about it. Please go check it out. We'd really appreciate your support. There's so many people worked on this project to make it happen, and we'll just love for your support, even if just by sharing the link. If you can just do that, it'll be or just following it. Like you got this reminder thing you put in there, and that'll help you, remind you of that what's coming up. And then use like Twitter and Facebook, or email a friend, right? Phone a friend kind of thing. Let them know that we've got a project coming up. So hopefully, yeah, you guys will appreciate what we're doing with this, and we'll back it. With that being said, thank you for hanging out with me these past 3 hours. I was only expecting to do 1 hour, but it got 3 hours, and this took ages to form while talking at the same time. But this is how far I've gotten, and then next time we'll come online and we'll try to get to this stage now that it's formed. And so wherever you are, like I always say, wherever you are, be well, be safe. Have a good day, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, good morning. Also, if you've got a loved one close by, right, give them a hug and a kiss and let them know that you care. And especially if you've got a mail in the house, tell them that you appreciate them, that they're doing a good job, lift them up. And that's their thing, like lift each other up, and be well, show love to each other, however you do that, and Ray, I think that's all I got to say for that. Like, I'm a bit tired now. My brain's getting all whopped up by talking for the last 3 hours or so. So thank you, and wherever you are, be well. We'll catch you next time. Thank you for following, and thank you for subscribing, and thank you for liking. So if you're watching this on a repeat, please like, subscribe, and share. Really would appreciate you helping us get forward. Thank you for getting us more viewers or subscribers. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Good night.